Steven, you gotta give me control. It's the only way. How come I'm gonna die? You're gonna die. Steven, I'm gonna die. Look at me. You're not gonna die. Let me save us.
Hello and welcome back to A Stark Contrast, where we discuss the differences and similarities from Marvel Comics to their MCU counterparts. And we are your hosts, Geoffrey
and Dai.
Hello, and welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back, Jeff.
I know, it's been a while since we've recorded in person.
Good grief. Yeah. I was just saying off mic, it feels like it's been a whole month. Because if you hadn't listened to our previous 2 episodes, we kind of pulled a double duty.
No.
Back-to-back recording due to schedule conflicts. So,
because we're so busy. We're
so
such busy travelers.
Busy. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I've been in 2 countries. I've been on a few planes.
Dai has been traveling.
Oh man, but you sir have been quite busy as well.
Things are picking up.
Yeah.
Life, gets in the way.
Life finds a way.
It does.
But yeah, I mean, welcome to the show. Like Jeff said, we're Stark Contrast, and just kind of. Did you want to talk about anything before we get into our usual run of show? Because I mean, in a month, in a few weeks, honestly, there's been a lot of Marvel stuff that's come up, and I think you have it fresher on mind than I do. But
things
go for it.
Things are picking up. There was a gap. After No Way Home released, we just saw Morbius.
That's right.
Yes, we just saw Morbius.
Which, of course, we'll talk about more in our upcoming episode.
It's true. Yes.
Yeah.
We will promo that at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
Multiverse of Madness has stepped their promo up, leading up to, the release on May 6th, I believe.
Which, by the way, tickets will be on sale by the time
the
this
day
episode drops.
Yeah. So
get your tickets. Go watch it.
Like I said, that's going to be an insane movie. Oh, also another thing is.
Oh, do we know TRT for that, by the way?
Oh yeah. I thought you saw it on Twitter at some point.
I haven't seen it.
2 hours and 6 minutes. That's from what I've seen.
Interesting.
A lot of people said that on Twitter. Yes, a lot of people said that.
I almost expected 2.5.
You're not wrong, and you're not wrong to think that.
Interesting.
Maybe Sam Raimi was like, I'm telling my story in 2 hours.
Yeah.
In 2 hours.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah. If it, like I said, I'll say this: if a story tells what it's supposed to in its allotted time, or it's told what it's supposed to tell, and it doesn't feel too short, it doesn't feel too long.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's done its justice.
I mean, of course, everybody always wants more. They want to see more interactions or, more of a certain character. But it's like,
you know what? I'll say this: if we've trusted in Raimi once before, we can trust him again.
Exactly.
End of story. Yeah. No, I'm good. Okay, great.
And then,
I'm looking forward to it. It's right around the corner.
And then riding the coattails of Multiverse of Madness, Dai and I were talking, and I saw a picture on Twitter of certain ears that were going to Minnie Mouse ears that are going to be made available at Disney World, Disneyland.
My gosh. The minute Jeff showed me these Minnie Mouse ears that are going to be available at the Disneyland parks, I was like, immediately opened the Disneyland app, and I have a magic key. I'm one of those people. And I was like, I'm going to go to the park tomorrow to get available. These. Yeah. And so I'm a dum-dum that didn't look it up first because I was so confident that they were out.
It was going to be there. Yeah. Because the pic that was going through Twitter and everything, it was like a picture of these ears at the park.
And they're Scarlet Witch. Mickey Mouse ears. And so they're red, they're crimson, scarlet colored.
It's the new crown.
And it's the new crown that Wanda wears, designed by Andy Park.
Yes.
And I walked in with a purpose. I was like, I'm going to get these ears for me and Jeff so that we can wear them while we're watching
something, the
Multiverse of Madness. And then, womp womp, they were actually put out by accident.
Of course.
a full month ahead of their
Is it really an
shelf time.
accident though?
I don't think it's an accident at all. I think that was planned.
It's like
many things.
It's like the Deadpool leak.
Yes,
You know?
exactly.
Like,
the wink, wink.
yeah.
The wink, wink. Oh
He's
gosh,
like,
how
I don't
did
know
that
who
get
released
out?
it,
Yeah.
but it was 70% not me.
Right, exactly. So the ears were pulled from the shelves the same day, quote unquote, mysteriously out a literal month to the day ahead, and I was like, yeah, got it.
So-
Somebody just accidentally thought it was April and not March.
So hopefully we can snag, or at least Dai can, because
Yeah.
she can go to Disney
I'm
whenever
gonna
she
snag
wants.
those.
And then on top of that, another collectible thing, I made an impulse buy. I don't know why. I saw it on, I don't know if it was Twitter, and GameStop was releasing, they were doing pre-orders for a collectible
Oh my
of
gosh.
Wanda's tiara
Love it.
from WandaVision, obviously
Yep.
her new suit. So I'm part of GameStop email subscriber list for some odd reason still, because I for sure buy video games at the store still.
Yeah.
And I saw it. They're like, oh, like a collectible of Wanda's tiara, and
Yeah.
I was just like, I had to like go to like an Instagram page to make sure I was like, it's legit. Went to the
didn't even know
GameStop.
that,
Yeah,
yeah.
I didn't know either. I just saw it, and I was just like,
And it's different
Oh.
from the one that they released like last year.
I think so. Yes, it's like a
Wow.
collectible. Yeah, and I was just like.
I gotta have it.
And I was just like, do I want? I opened it, added it to cart, really contemplated, and I was like, do I want it?
Yeah.
Looked at my bank account, went back to the page.
Hmm.
It was just like it was like, oh, only this amount made,
Yeah. Dude.
and I said, F- it, buying that,
Welcome.
buying it.
That is like the ultimate associate. Like that's the initiation
Is it?
into
Yeah.
like true geekdom.
Oh man,
Is that you're dealt this awesome limited edition?
yeah,
That's how they get you.
it's the whole
limited edition.
It's when it says only 1,000 made, or only
1,000
whatever.
Yeah.
Or,
Oh yeah. That's how they get you.
Ah,
That's how they get you.
bastards.
Welcome aboard, my friend.
And it's Wanda
It's
too.
official.
And it's just like, it doesn't help that Wanda's new suit is
It's
like,
just so good.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Done by
Andy
Park.
Park. Yeah.
Do we want to segue from that to Dai's
We
eventful
could.
weekend?
Yeah, I guess we could. So I'm coming down from not only an international trip, but then the weekend after, WonderCon happened here in Anaheim, and so I was assisting the lovely Tula Lotte, who is an incredible artist. If you don't know her, please look her up. Oh my God.
Yep.
It was a fantastic weekend for us, but we had quite a few visitors at the table. One of which happened to be Mr. Andy Park.
Legend.
And and I
Icon.
recognized him because I'm a nerd, and I just talked to him very vibrantly, like, Andy, hey, what's up? And he wasn't actually there as a guest. He was there as just a visiting. He was
Yeah.
just going as a congoer, and he was with his family, and it was really nice to kind of chat with him on a more professional level.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And so I would love to pitch him to be on the show one day, but we'll see.
I mean, yeah. The dream, one of the dreams, right?
Exactly. So, but yeah, it was great. It was great to run into him, and of course, I wanted to be like, "Tell me about the movie," but he couldn't do that.
What do you know?
Tell us everything.
What can you legally tell us?
Deadpool. Yes, it was really great. I'm super, super tired. I'll probably be able to sleep next Monday. It's my plan.
When life gets in the way, you got to plan your sleep.
You gotta plan your sleep because it's not happening right now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I'm about to leave for another show in Philly this weekend.
Nice.
And then Jeff's gonna do
Look
Coachella.
at you. I'm going to
and
Coachella
then,
in like 2 weeks. Yeah.
oh my Lord.
I know. It's
Yeah.
the year is picking up.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
of course, right in between all of that, we gotta be like, must buy Doctor Strange tickets. So
Yeah.
that's next on our agenda. But oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, is that about it? That's all I missed for the weekend or the last 2 weeks, huh?
Pretty much, yeah.
right.
Marvel's came out.
Yeah.
Multiverse of Madness is starting to pick up.
Yeah.
The Thor: Love and Thunder
Promo
press tour
Yeah, the
is
press
about
tour.
to start.
Right. So that means we'll probably get a teaser trailer any week now. I'm thinking perhaps it might be in front of Doctor Strange. But I don't know.
No,
That's a
yeah.
tough
I mean, we
call,
still
right?
have because the tickets released later tonight.
Yeah.
So that means we have a month until the Thor 11th. I'm sorry, until the release of Doctor Strange 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Thor: Love and Thunder will get squeezed in.
Oof.
You know, in between Moon Knight
and
promo.
Moon Knight. Speaking of Moon Knight,
Which is a great segue
for today's episode.
In today's character study.
Yeah. First up, we kind of have some new question mark Patreon patron news.
Okay.
So a big friend to the friend of the pod, Peter Melnick, who has been supporting as the podcast, and he's changed into his civilian fake, not made up name. So now he is supporting us by name. Thank you, Peter Melnick.
Yes.
I know how
Thank
important
you.
how important it is for you to be on the Moon Knight episode. So if you want a true Moonie, it is Peter Melnick. Let me tell you right now.
Love that.
And in new listener news, I do have 2 new countries for you.
Two more?
This is crazy. Yeah, we're just like, we're logging in, seeing, oh God, is anybody listening? And people are listening. And so, grazie to our new friends in Italy. And baie danke to our new friends in South Africa.
Whoa.
Yeah.
First of all, you're killing these greetings in their tongue.
Yeah, no, dude, I gotta put the phonetic like spelling out there, and then I'm in my head, I'm like, baie danke, baie
Don't mess
danke.
don't mess up the pronunciation.
I gotta do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you to Italy and South Africa.
That's awesome.
Incredible
Hell yeah.
news. So thank you for listening. Don't forget to also hit the subscribe button
Please.
and review if you can. That'd be awesome. But yes, so today we're talking about Moon Knight.
Oof.
I know, and Geoffrey,
Exciting.
Geoffrey and I were just saying before the show, like, it pains us because we're literally hours away from the second episode.
I know.
And unfortunately, we
Yeah.
can't record because we've got so much stuff going on.
And it also comes out at midnight.
And it comes out at midnight, and and as much as we would love to be the kind of fans that like have those immediate reaction things, it's just tough. And
maybe
it's tough
one
like
day,
that. Yeah,
but we don't know when.
I know.
I don't know for
exactly.
what series or what episode or what show
Yeah,
or
right?
movie, but
Live watch.
it'll happen.
Yeah, live watch. Oh, I'd love to do a live watch with you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, but you should hear us during movies. We're pretty good about it. But
Yeah.
like, especially after, which was like with
Yeah.
Morbius, for instance, we'll stand outside of the theater for like a good 30
a good amount of time
hour.
to kind of really delve into our thoughts.
Yeah,
for
to
sure.
just decompress. And I'm like, I swear, next time I'm going to record us. Because I was like,
Okay.
oh, I should have recorded all the Morbius stuff we talked about.
What if we bring our podcast equipment into?
Sitting there. All right. So we just saw the movie.
All right, so guys, right now, what's happening?
Oh, we would pull like a Mark Ruffalo.
Oh yeah, basically, yeah.
And basically have it on during the film. Oh gosh. So yeah, today's character is a very interesting one because, as I might have mentioned in a couple of episodes leading up to this one, it's a character that both Geoffrey and I are not too familiar with, like, whatsoever, in the capacity of both comics and film.
Yeah.
And that is none other than Moon Knight, who you might be familiar with given the new streaming series on Disney Plus,
Starring Oscar Isaac, the one and only Ethan Hawke,
and Oscar Isaac,
because we have to repeat his name twice.
and Oscar Isaac.
Yes.
And if you didn't get that, you'll understand shortly.
Yeah.
So first things first, created by Doug Munch and Don Perlin. This character's first appearance was in Werewolf by Night, number 32, August 1975. And so this is one of those instances where the character has made this appearance in a book that is not his own. And Geoffrey, I'm going to show you this artwork because it's just so great. It's that very classic look of, like when the style, the stylization and like the colors. And so that's his very first appearance right there.
That
So I pulled it up digitally.
Super cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And so Don Perlin did the pencils on this one. The highest graded on eBay at the moment, at least when I wrote my notes, was a 9.8, which is pretty solid. So
that's
went,
like literally near mint, right?
That went from near probably factory or package straight into the brick, the plastic casing.
Yeah.
So the person who's selling their copy is boasting that there's only 19 of those.
Of that first issue.
Of that first issue at 9.8, at that grade, at that everything.
19.
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you want to give an approximation of how much that issue might cost?
I want to say it's going to be worth even more at at the conclusion of the end of this series.
Right. Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
Because I undershot the green
The
the
Green
Green
Goblin.
Goblin one so hard, so I'm like scared now. But it is Moon Knight.
Right.
There's not. Is this the first on-screen
Yes.
like live action?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. That's why it's such a kind of a low
it's
key of a
definitely
big
gonna
deal.
it's gonna shoot
Yeah.
up then for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Oh, but also 9.8 is high.
Dude, that is
Yeah.
impact. It's just
If
it's
it was
so
9.2, 9.3, whatever, okay, yes.
Yeah.
But 9.8.
good. It's literally 0.2
Yeah, from
away from a
mint.
perfect
Yeah.
grade.
Oh god.
Hot off the press.
Can I deduce? Can I say 5 figures?
Yeah.
It's 5 figures.
6 figures.
Oh! Oh!
6 figures. But again, disclaimer, it is eBay. So
They can run the bid
they
up.
can run it up quite a bit, but in review of what I was looking at,
Yeah.
it seemed fairly legitimate.
185.
Lower.
Huh. Okay. I'm just glad I was in the ballpark.
You're in the ballpark.
It would have
though.
been like
Yeah.
185 and you were like, no, 700. You're like, whoa, holy.
No, you're in the right. You're in the right lane,
Let's do 125.
bruh. So close. 120.
Ah.
$120,000 for a 9.8
Near mint.
near mint of.
First appearance issue.
And yeah, and that's the thing that I think people often misconstrue when buying comics, just in general, is that you think, oh, well, it's not Moon Knight #1, so it must not be as important as this him being in.
First appearance.
Right. First
Got it.
appearance versus first
issue.
issue are very different
Okay.
sides of the
What's
the
more
gradient.
important?
First appearance.
First appearance.
First
Okay.
appearance always. So and funny enough with this, the highest non-graded version would be $3,750,
Wow. That's still.
which is still a chunk of change, but
Yeah.
it ain't 120.
Yeah.
It just ain't.
Can I make a prediction
120,000.
on maybe what it will go up to after the end
Yeah,
of this
do
series?
it. Do it.
I think it can go to.
Because it's already going up.
Really?
Oh yeah, I checked yesterday and I was like, oh my word.
So it's up from 120.
Oh, sorry. Pardon me. Correction on myself. Moon Knight #1 was already going up.
Okay. I'm talking about Moon Knight #1 for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So it's already going up from 120.
No, Werewolf by Night.
Oh. I'm correcting myself here.
Correction on a correction.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Like, so Werewolf by Night #32, which is his first appearance, is worth $120,000.
So first appearance.
Presumably.
First appearance. Okay, yeah.
Right.
I
And
think that
so-
goes up. I'll max cap it at.
Yeah.
I think $250,000.
Woo.
I know.
I mean, yeah, depending on how great that series ends up being, and also
I think it's
like,
gonna be
the in demand of it all already.
amazing.
Oh yeah.
'Cause after we
super
wrap
stoked.
this episode,
Yeah.
we're going home and staying up for it.
I know. I wish. I mean, maybe I can do it. I don't know. We'll see. I tried last time, and I was at like 11:45, and then I just passed out, and I was like,
I'm an insomniac, so
Yeah.
I wait. I can't wait.
I want to do it so bad. Ugh. So speaking about Werewolf by Night, I wanted to segue a bit because it is not, the title. It's not his own book.
Yeah.
And so, funny thing about Werewolf by Night, as you can tell by the cover alone, it's kind of like diving into this, Werewolf by Night, and it's like really dramatic in its own way. But this title was published under Marvel's predecessor, Atlas Comics, which we've talked about a few times.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, and it originally, the story and the character itself originally debuted in Marvel Tales in July of 1953. So this was all before the formation of the Comics Code Authority, which is that handy dandy little thing that you'll see at the top left corner of the comic sometimes.
Yep.
It's not on this one, but it's just basically when the rules started to get a little more lax and not as severe as what you could show in a comic book.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't until, despite the release of this book in 1953, it wasn't until the 70s that the rules were relaxed enough that they would allow a book to have werewolves in it. Like full on.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was that's very strange era of like, you're not allowed to show that artistic depiction of a werewolf in a comic book.
I do vaguely remember like werewolves are like a very
Yeah.
crazy thing to depict.
Interesting,
wow, yeah,
right?
super.
Yeah, so it took them 20 years to even be able to do that. And so Werewolf, whose his civilian name, if you can believe it, is Jack Russell.
That's funny. That's very funny.
I wish you guys could see Jeff's
That's
face
very
when he
funny.
says his name. He's Jack Russell. His name is Jack Russell.
Gosh.
Like a puppy.
I know. That's hilarious.
He turns into a werewolf. His solo book finally debuted in September of 1972, which eventually led to this issue with Moon Knight in it.
Nice.
So is this in general and the show, well, probably more so the show, is that your first exposure to the character?
100%.
Yeah, so
We
not
reached
even
an episode where I finally said, "Yep, this is the first time."
That's wild. So what was your first, take me back to your first impression of like, okay, you heard, okay, well, Disney Plus is doing a show. Like, what were your thoughts?
So what was it? Whatever Disney convention, Disney Plus convention it was, or
D23.
23 one day when Feige announced like the panel of different shows coming to Disney Plus.
Oh yeah.
And then people were like Moon Knight, and I was like, oh, like, and then when that announcement happened, I remember Moon Knight was trending. So then that's what I love about Twitter. Like there's definitely there's parts that are, you know, some are toxic or whatever, but there's parts where it's super educational.
Was this the one when it was fully digital?
Yes.
So it's 2020 maybe? Yeah, because I remember there was one of them where we were texting each other furiously. Yeah.
It was like it was just
one.
like a slate of title cards.
Right.
And that was it. Yeah.
And I was like, wait, is that real?
Yeah.
Because the Photoshop is crazy.
And
these
so
days.
I remember Moon Knight trending, and then people started posting like different splash panels and comic panels, you know, from the comics, his comics, and saying like, oh, Moon Knight's like hilarious, He has like almost like a humor like Deadpool kind of, you know, like, and like. So I was excited for that, and see the kind of like vernacular and verbiage like Moon Knight was. So I guess and also his costumes freaking tight. Yeah. And then seeing it brought to life on live action is like
wild,
insane.
Yeah.
Like that reveal at the end of the first episode, I was like, yeah, this is it. Like this is, and I think Marvel Disney Plus shows, they haven't missed with these comic accurate live action suits,
which is crazy because I mean we'll get into this when we talk aesthetics, but you know, like for me, knowing Moon Knight from like what little cartoon appearances I had seen, and also the combination of these classic books and just kind of knowing him by name and by visual, to see something like a full-on white suit like changed into live action and the way that they've treated it, I think is a very smart move. But yeah, again, we'll go into it later. But yeah, I don't think for me, I like I mentioned, I'm not like overly familiar with him that I could recite things like I could Spider-Man, like not even close. But he was always around enough, and like with the trading cards, you know, that we're gonna look at, I was familiar enough to know his basics, that he was a mercenary. He's quite lunatic. He's quite like street level crime, doesn't pull punches type of character.
Anti-hero, you know, would you say?
No.
A hero.
Yeah, a hero.
Or how he's depicted in the comics or whatever,
And just not your typical sort, because like he doesn't do the things that a normal hero would do.
Yeah, like he doesn't have like the Batman code or a Captain America code type of thing.
Certainly not Captain America, right? Like he's like almost anti Captain America, and we'll talk more about this character shortly. But so I have 2 trading cards. I thought I had more, but I have 2. So both from 1992, Marvel Superheroes and the Marvel Masterpieces. And so here's that one, and then I'm gonna read you the one by Joe Jusko. So, dead a full minute at the foot of the statue of the Egyptian moon god Khonshu, soldier of fortune MARC SPECTOR was resurrected to serve as the god's disciple. Upon returning to the States, he adopted the guise Moon Knight and has used his personal fortune and weaponry expertise to wage an unrelenting war on crime ever since. A secret need charts the moral course he now follows. Through his actions, Spector hopes to find redemption for the bloody misdeeds of his past and absolution for his soul. See?
Interesting.
That's what I mean by unconventional. He is, you know, a hero, but he's
a mercenary.
He's also a mercenary. So he's like, I will kill for money, but also I'd like to kill bad guys, not good guys. But again, we'll talk about this as we go along.
Like I said, I'm super excited to see like the full development of the character, because after watching that first episode, all I see is like, you know, what we see as, you know, spoilers if you haven't seen the first episode, but I mean,
that too, by the way.
It's just because like it seems like that Moon Knight is like this second persona, right?
Right.
So, and obviously deals with, you know, with DID, dissociative identity disorder and everything. So it's it's almost like a Hulk kind of situation. Like, when does he take over? Like, is Mark taking over Steven? And then how does Steven come into play? Right. And Steven doesn't even know what's going on. Right. You know, because it's just Mark and Moon Knight. Right. And then you're like, you know, then the end of that episode, you're like, okay, there's some coagulation going on. And then, so it's like, like, is it like a Hulk situation? Does he only come out like
during dire situations, like stress? Yeah, and so we'll get into a bit of that. Like you just said, he's kind of one of those characters that has this duality to him, not unlike, you know, even Green Goblin and Norman Osborn, for instance. You know, it's kind of like this reemergence of a persona that comes up. At least in the MCU, we've seen that he you know, Mark, who is he's recessed. He's in the back of Steven's mind, seems to come up and emerge when Steven needs help with something, or he's in danger with you know, like the people coming after him, pursuing him for all these other reasons. But it's worth noting that, you know, with this episode, we're probably going to start with MCU as far as the contrasts go, because this is the very first time that people are being exposed to this character and on such a grand scale at the same time, which isn't something you can really say, because you think about all the heroes that they've already brought to the MCU. A lot of them are very familiar just by pop culture.
Exactly. Yes. So that was another thing I was going to bring up. This is the first like Disney Plus series original, as in like the first character we're seeing ever that wasn't in a movie before, or
because even with like Hawkeye, for instance, like, sure, we're bringing in Kate Bishop. That's a fresh new face. But we know who Hawkeye is. And so same with Falcon and Winter Soldier. Same with WandaVision and Loki.
Yep.
You know,
this is a brand new, no one, like, even to like the general public, you know, that even though you don't read comics or you just know Marvel Studios, like, this is super new. Yeah, he's a lesser known unless you're a comic book fan.
And so, you know, Marvel themselves, they describe the hero as struggling with multiple personalities and immoral inclinations. Mark Spector fights on against all odds as the cloaked Avenger, Moon Knight. And so, you know,
Avenger, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So like the card says, and like how you'll hear very often in this episode, he is very much a mercenary. And so I feel like up to this point, many people who are familiar with either or comics or film are kind of used to the mercenary being either the Punisher or Deadpool. Like, that's the closest that they've got. Sure. And now we get Moon Knight. Yep. And so like Geoffrey mentioned, portrayed by Oscar Isaac in the series that's just dropped this year, and we're on episode 2, created by Jeremy Slater. And so, you know, it's interesting to have been introduced to that character the way it was in that show, because as the cards say, as the comics will say, they always talk about Mark Spector first. It's always about Mark Spector. To see Stephen Grant be kind of at the forefront of this show, and you're really getting to know Stephen Grant from his day-to-day, him chaining himself up, him going to work, him talking to his mom on the phone. Yeah. Is very interesting because, you know, when you read the books and you read the first appearances and the solo titles, it's always about Mark. It's always Mark's personality. Got it. So, you know, we've yet to see anything from Mark's actual backstory in the show, at least, you know, per the first episode. For sure. It's all from Steven's point of view. Exactly. Yeah. And so that's so interesting. But, you know, like the card states, Mark was once a mercenary, and while on the job, they were intending to rob the tomb of Pharaoh Seth II. Okay. along the Egyptian-Sudan border, and then things went sideways, as they always do.
This is also another super interesting part of the show. It's using the Egyptian kind of history and
love
that.
Egyptian
so
history.
it's like something new, you know?
Exactly, something completely apart from New York. We're away from New York,
or even like Thor and Norse mythology.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. It's
super new. Yeah,
completely new territory. And so, so Mark was essentially left for dead, and he fell before the statue of the moon god Khonshu or Khonshu. And so, he drew. You know, like if you read the issue, he's on his last breath. He like passes out, and the person that's with him there, you know, like is trying to revive him, and he just wakes up, and there's this cloak upon the statue.
Yeah.
He takes off the cloak, he puts it on, and he's immediately Moon Knight. It's really
insane.
interesting. Yeah, it's like he's almost possessed by not only whatever's the entity within the statue, but also by the garb itself, which he then carries on to what we see now, which is this adorned white thing that looks like a crescent moon when he jumps off of the buildings.
So sick in live action.
It's pretty sick, yeah.
Crap.
And so I wanted to read a few listener comments that we received regarding the first episode, which is always fun to hear. So speaking of Patreon patron Peter Melnick, I'll try saying that 4 times fast. He says, and again, he's a huge Moonie, so
respect.
Right. Haven't been this jazzed in a while. Excited to see where they go with this take on the character and his world, which I completely agree with, and he would know better than anybody.
Yeah.
And patron Nats says, first of all, this is hilarious because she's not the first person that has said this to us on social media, but she says, 911. Yes, hello. I'd like to report a crime against British accents, please. Because apparently Oscar Isaac's Stephen Grant accent is horrific.
Look, I when the trailer first came out, I think my initial question was like, oh, he's speaking in like in a very deep British accent. I'm like, okay, how come? Well, why didn't they maybe look into casting an English actor if they're gonna have, you know? And I think this is maybe before I knew who Moon Knight was and having 2 different personalities.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. So then I watched the first episode, and then we get to the end.
Yeah.
Where he has a conversation with Mark in the mirror, and I was like, okay, I see why they casted. I see why they casted Oscar Isaac now.
And I said to Jeff in text, I was like, Oscar Isaac is a capital A actor. Yeah, because you see the reason why, right?
Because the switch between Steven and Mark in that 1.5 minute scene, I think 2 minute scene, where he's like, Steven, you have to let me take control. He's like, this is a nightmare. Oh, I'm going to die. Oh, this is not real. This is very real. And you're really like, good. Oh my God. Oh, he is having a conversation with himself.
Yes, exactly.
And it's like, I believe that there's 2 different people in this room.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. I just read some quotes from Oscar today, in fact, where he, you know, it's really the portrayal of DID that they're trying to get across, because in books and in comics, and you'll see it even in these older issues, it's very much like a humorous trope where it's almost made fun of, or it's not handled. It's like, oh, he's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Like it's not. It's for play, and it's not taken seriously like a mental disorder that it is.
Yeah.
And you know, and Oscar made point that he wanted to bring light to it and show not only that that Stephen or Mark suffers from this disorder, but also throughout the series we'll see how this character emerges from that and becomes better and deals with it.
Even at the end, in the end credits, there is a mental health hotline that pops up at the end of the credits. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
I guess my next thing would be like, so I'm sorry, not Oscar. So Mark and Khonshu,
yeah,
they're aware of Stephen Grant.
Correct.
And they're aware that, you know, it's going to flip-flop between, you know, whatever personalities. But Steven's not aware that Mark is a different personality.
Right.
I hope they get into that. I can't wait to see, because it's like,
I think so.
Steven is just so unaware. He's just trying to live his life.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I murdered 5 people.
Yeah.
And I still have the scarab in my hand.
Yeah.
He's like, ah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it's really interesting in that even, you know, and it's kind of, and I've said this to everyone who within earshot, but like it reminds me a lot of Memento, the old film Memento, as well as, now that I'm thinking about it now, Fight Club, because you see the narrator, Edward Norton's character, go through his daily life, but he is unaware of when Tyler Durden is taking over, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that even the people in his life are like, hey, Mark. And Steven's like, what? And so
why'd you call me Ma?
Right. And it's so good, Jeff. And so he's having this very parallel, you know, scenario with the narrator from Fight Club, in that he's existing beyond himself and not even realizing it.
Yeah.
So people in his life are like Layla, like we'll talk about her a little bit later, but like people are calling this man and seeing this man out in the streets. They're making dates with him, and he has no idea. And so, but yeah, you know, Nats went on to say that she loved it. She can't wait for the next sept. She wasn't expecting humor, and she liked the twist. Can't really wait for the story to kick in.
Yeah.
Patron Robin says, once again, I am living for Wednesdays. Lots to process from episode 1. Absolutely wanted to see more.
Woo.
And then Ariel Tima on Instagram, didn't know what to expect, and at the end I was just like, oh, that episode went by so fast. And then Captain Cheese,
my guy,
he put a peanuts emoji. So I'm assuming that meant nuts. LOL.
Nuts.
Okay.
Probably.
So he said nuts. LOL.
Nuts. For sure. Yeah.
Thanks, Caesar. So yeah, it was all over the place, but in the right way. At least for me, right? Like you're just like, holy, and of course you're left wanting to know, like, show it all already.
Yeah.
Show it all. And
Hot take. One of the better reveals.
Yeah.
Of a Marvel show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I'll say.
Like that. This is my my film nerd coming on.
You're allowed.
Where Steven lets Mark take over. We get to the shot of the hallway.
Whew.
It's like slowly dollying in.
Yeah.
You see the werewolf, like,
Is it a werewolf or Egyptian dog?
something like that.
Yeah, something.
I was gonna bring up quick side tangent.
Yeah.
This car that you showed us.
Yes.
Or no, of the first
issue.
appearance.
Yeah.
It looks like.
It kind of looks like
That's
him.
why
Yeah.
I was like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So
Maybe.
So we see the werewolf, whatever it is, the dog, big dog, fighting for his life, its life, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
That's wild.
Okay,
right?
this is going
and it seems so brutal. Like you get the
visceral.
You feel
that
the
was my
visceral.
first. That was my first. I was like, this is
Yeah.
a visceral. Like,
because already the scene itself, like the hallway and the bathroom, whatever, is like
with wall to wall mirrors
and the lights are flickering,
yeah.
so it's already spooky. If
you see
will.
the Egyptian kind of like hieroglyphics
Yeah.
coming up, or you're like, oh, this is crazy. And then you see the
Yeah.
back of Moon Knight.
Yeah.
He turns around and you see his eyes, and you're
Yeah.
just the full garb, and you're like,
Woo!
oh, they showed him.
Yeah. And
like-
I wasn't sure if we would get payoff in the first episode.
Yeah,
To be perfectly
it was a great
honest.
set. I was telling Dai
Yeah.
this too. I was like, it was a great payoff and a
Yeah.
great setup, because throughout the show, the first episode, you never saw like Mark's / Moon Knight's full ability. You just
Yeah.
saw that whenever he's about to lose it,
Yeah.
it's a quick split second. It's like Steven's about to get jumped, and then boom, 5 people are dead
Yeah.
in a frame, and you're
Yeah.
like, what
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah.
And then you're like,
Well, here's a question for you.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that they'll go back and show us?
I want to say,
Do we get to see Mark kicking all that ass?
for those specific two
Yeah.
scenarios
For
in that
those
first
scenarios.
episode,
Yeah.
I want to say yes.
Yeah.
But I'm not mad if they don't.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Same. I would
Yeah.
love to see it, but I think
Yeah.
that with 5 more episodes in the can, they have so much time to show new
His
stuff.
true ability.
Why go backwards?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, very quickly, speaking of Oscar Isaac,
Mm-hmm.
can we just go back in time to another time where he
Mm-hmm.
played another Egyptian god?
He
Did you see X-Men Apocalypse?
it's been a while.
Oh, but
and
you saw it.
I don't know actually. I mean, probably when it was playing on TV and you know like I was like it's on TNT or something and I would just jump back, flip back, and if it's playing, it's playing. If not, it's not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did see that graphic on Twitter where he's played 3 different Marvel. Is it like characters? I don't know if
who's the third,
or is it 3 comic book characters?
So who's the other?
Oh,
one?
He's Spider-Man.
2099. Yeah, Spider-Verse. Yeah. Yes, that's kind of wild to think about. But yeah, he, speaking of Steven's voice, his voice as Apocalypse was also unexpected for me. Because I was so used to the voice that you hear in the X-Men 90s cartoon, which is very like, oh, the X-Men, but like
gravitas.
Huge, super duper gravitas. And so to hear, when I first heard Oscar Isaac's Apocalypse voice, it's very tiny. It's the same as Steven, is just not English. And he's like, oh, the mutants. And it's very quiet, whispery. And when he grows, which is something that Apocalypse does, he scales.
Yeah.
And so when he scales, he does have the deeper voice, but it was just a very interesting take on that character. And so I personally am very glad to know that he has been redeemed in the proper Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Where now he's actually taking on this character that is also just so beloved on the side, but also so new to so many people.
Do you know the story about like how he got, like how he like was he pitched the idea of Moon Knight?
No, I'm not sure.
I'm
not
sure. Sure either, but
yeah, I would love to know because I think that would be. I almost wouldn't doubt that he stumbled upon the character somehow, and then
or a director maybe,
or the director, especially with this particular crew, because it's very much people of the story, and which is always fantastic to see, and so the representation is really flourishing with this show, and so I wouldn't be surprised if it went either way, and he is EP on the show as well, is he not? I'm pretty sure he is.
I believe so.
I think he is. I think he's
so.
executive producer. So that's another thing. It's just like, wow, they're really getting into it.
Yeah.
So let's talk personalities.
Yes.
This is where it's going to get a little hairy. So this character exhibits familiar nuances to like I said, the Green Goblin, and that he has symptoms, or he does suffer from DID, a.k.a. dissociative identity disorder, constantly tangling with the multiple personalities. So for Mark, these characteristics are often attributed to the moon god. So these are all a byproduct of Khonshu or Khonshu. Yeah. And so speaking of Khonshu, whose proper Egyptian name is Khonshu, the Egyptian god of the moon, his name means traveler.
Okay.
And this may relate to the perceived nightly travel of the moon across the sky. So I had a lot of fun doing the Egyptian side of this because I loved Egyptian history as a kid. Like when my family would go to like Vegas, I was like, can we go to Luxor? Because Luxor's the pyramid.
Yes.
Constant. I was obsessed with it.
Look, honestly don't blame me. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
One of the cooler looking
so
hotels
cool.
on the strip, but it's like
it.
not the best hotel, but whatever.
No, it's terrible. But I loved just being in like, so cool.
Of course.
So anyway.
I love the Mummy ride at Universal Studios. That's my jam.
That kind of, I will say, that kind of gets me queasy. It didn't used to. But now it is.
That's
and
my
Like,
jam.
I don't know.
I love that.
Did I ever tell you that we have a picture, like Sisyphus crew? Uh-huh. All of us are on that ride. We have a picture.
Gosh.
It's funny. I got to show you. Anyway, so along with Thoth, another god of the moon, often depicted as an ibis bird or baboon. So it's, that classic bird that you see with a big beak.
Got it.
Khonshu marked the passage of time. So in history, Khonshu himself was generally depicted as a young man with a side lock of hair and wore a uraeus, which is that cobra thing on the forehead.
Oh, that's what it's called.
Yeah,
okay.
uraeus. And then a lunar disc. So it's very much elemental. So moon, everything is moon, which is funny because I almost feel like some people who aren't, like surface level, who aren't too familiar with Egyptian lore, would have thought that's a comic book character. Like completely thought it was a comic book character.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Sure.
But no, he's derived from actual ancient Egyptian lore, so that's pretty awesome. And so in the show, Khonshu is voiced by F. Murray Abraham, who is a legendary actor in his own right. He has years and years and years of credit on IMDb.
Of course.
With notable roles in film and television, voiceover, and as himself. He was in Amadeus, Grand Budapest Hotel, White Lotus, the series. I don't know if you watched that. He was in that.
All right.
And most notably, Tony in the live-action Lady and the Tramp film. Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah, he's that guy. That's the skinny, lanky guy.
Okay.
It's like, oh, we got the tramp. He's here with a date. that's Khonshu.
Nice.
So, so that's him.
My favorite line. Oh, great. The idiot's in control.
Yes, exactly.
I was like, yeah.
So good.
So good.
I loved it. And for a hot second before the credits, I was like, is that Oscar Isaac too? I thought he might have pulled a Tom Hardy and done the voiceover for Khonshu in addition to being
so
Mark and Steven.
Khonshu was specifically cast.
You're right.
Thank God for captions, man.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I was like, who's speaking? And I was like, oh, okay.
That's good. Which then, of course, introduces us to Stephen Grant with a V and not Stevie. And so, again, he's at the forefront of the show, and we're first introduced to this character above the rest. And as far as we can tell, he's just a simple man who works at the British History Museum, and not even
You and him have a lot in common.
and he's not even like an actual
He's not
tourist
even
or
like
curator.
Yeah. He's a
He works in the
stockist.
he's a stock it's a
Inventory.
shop stock inventory. Yeah.
He's a gift
The gift shop. Yeah, he works in the gift shop,
Poor
which is
guy.
really
He
sad.
just wants to give a tour. He knows so much history.
Yeah. So would you believe it, Jeff, that Stephen Grant in the comics is a billionaire businessman?
He's a Tony Stark.
He's basically he's very wealthy, which is one of the reasons why, and you might hear this comparison quite often throughout this episode, is that people regard him as Marvel's Batman. That's where it comes from. Yeah, it's because he's got this immense wealth that almost enables him to be this vigilante at night because he has deep pockets.
Oh, it's interesting.
So that's kind of where it comes from.
Wow, they flipped that script.
They really flipped it.
Unless they're
as far as we know
unless
right
there's
now.
something that he doesn't know about himself.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, you never know.
Exactly. And so, fun fact, Stephen Grant is not only 2/3 of Captain America's real name, but it's also the name of an actual writer who penned the mid-'80s runs of The Punisher. So there's a little Marvel family tree for you. So Nats on Twitter asked, was some of the comic books actually set in England too? So Nats is from the UK, as you imagine. And so, as you know, someone please correct me if I'm wrong, but seeing as this character actually hails from Chicago, Illinois, and we're going to get into Mark's story a little deeper in just a second, but I feel like the Moon Knight in tradition is predominantly based in New York and, of course, the other expected territories because he was a mercenary. And so, of course, he would jump countries. But I feel like the basis of the storyline isn't at all like it is in the show, where he's like, again, he's working at the British History Museum and he's a Londoner.
Based in London.
Yeah, and he's got the accent and everything, which is a drastic, at least from my perspective, a drastic change from who MARC SPECTOR and Stephen Grant are in the comic books.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I did find that the only notable English locality was during the Serpent War storyline, where Mark was transported to old-time England, 1584.
Holy hell!
Yeah.
Wow.
So I didn't get to reading that one, but it was also a team-up book with Conan the Barbarian, so you can imagine what that looks like.
Okay.
And that was actually just released in 2019. So there's something to read if you're so interested. And so let's talk a little bit more about MARC SPECTOR. So as far as episode 1 is concerned, we don't even hear from Mark till like literally the last minute of the show. In that mirror scene, which is like just so good. And, like usually, because the mirror and the way that the delay of a figure.
I love the way that thing
the
was
way
shot.
They did it is incredible because like you see that so much in like The Conjuring and horror films and all that stuff.
Do you know how hard it is to film with mirrors just coming from a pure like film stand? Like it's so hard.
So take us into that. Is that a natural thing? Is it all CGI? Like what is the process with that?
Oh man, that's how good it looks. It's like, it could be a natural thing, and they paint out the camera, or it's made to look like a mirror, so it's really like so like there's that cutout of where the mirror is, and then Oscar Isaac's right behind there,
right?
But it's made to look like it's shooting into a mirror.
So they did that quite a bit in the Twilight Zone, which is something I noticed.
Yes,
but the old time series. But so does that then mean they're just imposing a secondary shot of him, or is it a stand-in from, like, if you're looking from behind his shoulder?
That's always going to be like a body double, any over the shoulder shot, and you're talking to, and an actor is talking to technically themselves. Yeah, it's most likely like a body double that just looks like them from the back and the shoulder. Yeah, interesting. It also gives like the actor like eye levels and to kind of like act towards too, and but let's just say I cannot wait to see the assembled on this show. Yeah, dude. Oh, I'm so ready for that. Touch on that scene, but yeah.
Right. Oh, that's so good. So MARC SPECTOR. Let's see. What can we say about MARC SPECTOR? So
I can't stop thinking about like him being like, it's like James Bond-esque.
It's so crazy, right? Yeah, MARC SPECTOR.
Yeah.
SPECTOR, MARC
Exactly.
SPECTOR. Are you thinking about? Wasn't there a movie called SPECTOR?
Exactly.
It was
100%. I kept thinking like, why do I keep thinking of James Bond? I'm like, oh yeah, it was SPECTOR.
So MARC SPECTOR. So imagine, if you will, Mark is born into this respectable family, and he comes from Jewish roots. So his father is, he escaped the internment camps of Auschwitz and all of that back in the day. So that kind of puts you with a timeline. Okay. So you kind of get an idea of like how far back this character's history goes and how old he might be. And of course that's based on the 70s. So but that they've, at least from episode 1, they've changed this quite a bit, because you don't really get the idea that Mark or Stephen is Jewish, but he is very Jewish in the books. And instead of going and following the path that his father and his parents rather, kind of wanted to lay out for him, he decided to do his own thing. He didn't really want to follow the historical and the belief system of what a traditional, Jewish family might do.
Got it.
And so instead, Mark decided to become a boxer, a Marine, and then finally a CIA operative who turned mercenary for hire.
Oh, he wanted to do stuff.
He wanted to do stuff.
He wanted to do some crazy stuff for sure.
Yeah, and so the more you learn about this character and the more that you kind of uncover about his personality and what may have led to it, it makes more sense because of the people that he was surrounded by growing up. Mm-hmm. One of which was a family friend named Rabbi Yitz Perlman. And so Rabbi Perlman, he was, good friends with his father and, seemed like a good guy until one day, it's discovered that Rabbi Perlman was actually a Nazi deserter and anti-Semitic. So he then, after gaining the trust of the family, he tried to kill Mark as a child, which was so traumatic to the child that he decided to fight back. His fight or flight kicked in, right?
Oh, okay.
And instead of complete flight, he decided to fight back. Nice, which is like incredible. Mm-hmm. But the process and the entire thing was so traumatic to him. This is the exact source of his DID. This is when he officially creates the disorder, because he was struggling with like, how do I get out of this situation?
So it kind of just,
and then part of him was like, fight, yeah, which I guess drives him to be the boxer, to be more physical, to be that that tough, rough and tough guy that he becomes as an adult. And so the first of the personalities to emerge after Mark is his sole identity.
Oh, okay.
After that, he then splits off into Steve Grant.
Okay.
And then an additional one named Jake Lockley.
Okay.
Who we have no semblance of anywhere.
I mean, who knows who else to get introduced,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. In the show. So we'll see if he ever shows up. It's possible he probably shows up in tonight's episode, and darn it. We can talk about it in the next mini Marvel.
Yeah, we can bring it up and be like, guys,
exactly.
gonna have to correct her.
Exactly. And so next on the list, of course, is Moon Knight. And so
that guy.
the guy with the title of the show. And so, again, not at this point in episode 1, not much about Moon Knight himself is known, but we get that incredible scene with him, beating up that dog werewolf thing, and with Mark finally convincing Steven to let him take over to enable all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I gotta say, like, at least a fan of my caliber, I feel like that was such a great payoff as a comic book fan as well, because he looks like he does in the books. He looks just like him.
Yeah.
At least, aside the texture and the
Sure,
depth of the outfit. But like the stature of that character and the way he moved down to the eyes was like
Speaking of that, he is now at Avengers Campus, made an appearance. Literally, they are so freaking quick with these shows and characters. Literally, the day after it premiered, he was making appearances only at night too. Like,
is it only at night?
I mean, that's what I saw. Like, and it was like I showed you. I sent you the video, Twitter video, and it's just like, and he wouldn't even do anything. He would just kind of peek.
Yeah.
And then he would kind of like
the eyes.
The eyes.
That's
the eyes light up.
Part. Yeah.
It's practical, like from the guest point of view.
Yeah.
I wonder how practical it is for a cast member.
I know. Oh my gosh, can you imagine?
But yeah.
And so I wanted to show, as we talk about the comic book version of this character, by the way, I'm going to see him. I'm going to go there, and I'm going to go there when it's finally nighttime.
I mean, it took you a long time just to see
I know, Shang-Chi. Oh my gosh, it took forever.
Shang-Chi. Yeah.
Sean. It took me forever. I still have not seen the Hawkeyes. Hawkeyes are the only ones I haven't seen.
Really?
Yeah, I've seen Loki. I've seen, whatever. But yeah, Hawkeyes are the only ones.
Because Clint and
Kate.
It's
both of them.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I've seen the Eternals too. I've seen them all the time. I'm like, okay, but we're the Hawkeyes. And
who
now
has
I have
the
to
schedule and what do I got to do to see them?
Exactly. But yeah, so as we talk about the comic book version of Moon Knight, I wanted to show you these panels. And so in this first book, in the Werewolf by Night appearance, you kind of get the gist of it's so funny because it's like, if you know 70s comics and you know how 70s writing is, it's kind of like the Face It Tiger. It's like how they say the girls say sport and the guys call the girls bird.
It's a certain vernacular verbiage.
Total vernacular jargon thing. And so there were times while reading these older books that I was just like, were they being serious or are they being funny? because I'll tell you, Moon Knight in the 70s is very self-aware of himself.
So like
he's like
Deadpool-esque?
Almost. Okay, almost. I'm going to show you this. And I want you, once again, like in our Thor episode, I want you to read Moon Knight's dialogue in this panel.
Oh, read it. I'll read it like how
read
I
it.
did
Read
with
it. Read it. Yeah.
Was it the Thor one or the? What was
yeah,
that one?
you did the Thor one with the thong.
Yeah.
Read the bubbles. Read the two bubbles
Just
there.
The white bubbles.
Just the white bubbles.
Hello, Russell. They told me to announce myself as the Moon Knight. Okay, it's pretty normal. Pretty stupid name, but it'll do as far as you're concerned.
He called his own name stupid.
But I do. It's kind of like it's like you don't know if it's breaking the fourth wall,
right?
But it's like it's funny to the point where you can be like, that's just his humor.
Is he the Deadpool before Deadpool? Because Deadpool didn't come until much later, but. Isn't that funny? He's just like, pretty stupid name, but it'll do as far as you're concerned.
That's really funny.
It's pretty funny. And so, it's interesting because, yes, once again, like through the spectrum of storytelling and how that changes and mutates over time, not only with the writers, but also generations and how general public reads these books, right? So back in the day, like maybe they thought of him not as quite as seriously as they do now, because like I said, the DID thing, it was kind of like a quip, It was treated like a quip, like how cool, he's got 3 personalities. Which one are you gonna get? You know, to where in the more modern books, it's much more treated as like a disease that he's working
he's struggling
through.
with
He's
this.
very much struggling with it, and so I wanted to show you, you know, in contrast to that, this incredible, beautiful 4-panel page by Greg Savage Smallwood.
Nice.
Who, this is from 2017, Moon Knight number 14. And so this is just a taste of Mark confronting Khonshu. And so this is part of the book where Mark is realizing, and I hope they kind of do this in the show, like Oscar mentioned, you know, he's working through his mental issues, and he's like, you know what, I don't need you. You're not in control of me.
Yes.
I'm in control of me. And so I'll post this online as well, but I just wanted to show you this because it's just freaking beautiful. Smallwood is a god in his own right, but it's so clean. And so you'll see in these panels, it's not only Mark, it's not only Steven, but it's also Jake. And himself as Moon Knight. And he's really confronting Khonshu and literally
his personalities too.
His personalities.
Like that whole we are Moon Knight.
Right. And obliterates
Ooh.
Khonshu at the very end. And then this is the final panel of the book. Gorgeous work. For the record.
If we see this kind of portrayal
my gosh.
in one of the episodes, we'll know now. We'll be like, yeah, well, we know where they got that
got it from, exactly.
Or when at least if and when they confront Khonshu.
So
we'll see. Because he did make an appearance in small bits in the first episode. I was like, oh, that's kind of.
Yeah, he was that towering
with
figure
with the
beak. Yeah, exactly.
I was like,
yeah.
Ooh, this is like
the ibis.
Insane.
Yeah, the ibis bird. So that's literally just 2 pages out of a book. Because you can imagine, you know, Moon Knight has volumes upon volumes of solo titles, and they all kind of go through this wave of seriousness that varies depending on who's writing and who's drawing, and it really is a testament of how tonally a body of art or an artist, let alone a writer, can really set the theme and the mood of a book. Because, you know, like going back to this and then moving it to this, you know, like going from the 70s going to the 20s is like, look at the change. Like tonally, it's just so different. And it works for this character especially because it's just like facets of a multi-dimensional character. And so, you know, again, like he's often regarded as Marvel's Batman, and they do have a few striking things in common. The billionaire thing, they kind of like a caped crusader type of deal. But The Ringer, a blog online, magnificently stated this, and I had to quote this. Moon Knight is unique in that his origins are rooted in Egyptian mythology, and his DID is one of his defining characteristics. And while the Dark Knight dresses in all black to hide in the shadows of Gotham City, Moon Knight wears white because he wants his enemies to see him coming. Like, so it's
badass.
Like... Right? So it's kind of like, what'd you say about Moon Knight being Batman? Because
he's the complete opposite.
He is,
or he wants to be the complete opposite.
I think he's the complete opposite. And to be honest, if you want a more similar character to Batman, I would say Red Batman, who was Daredevil, is more like him because he lost his father.
He operates in the shadows.
He operates in the shadows. He does his own thing. But even then, I still don't think they're too similar. Batman is Batman. Dang it.
It's true. He is.
Yeah. And so that brings us to Mr. Knight. And so... Ooh. Mr. Knight. What can we say about Mr. Knight? So he was first introduced in Secret Avengers number 19 in 2011. He's a very recent addition.
Super new.
Very recent.
Yeah.
And I remember this so distinctly because they had switched creative teams. And I remember when that first picture hit the internet and social media, people were like, what the hell did they do to Moon Knight? Why does he look like that? Why is he wearing a suit?
Do you have that pic of that first appearance?
I have a pic. I can pull up a pic very quickly.
Yeah.
But it's, no joke, it looks exactly like the one on the show.
Wow.
Oh yeah, it's exactly
that character
exactly
poster.
Oh yeah. I think that's why I didn't even screen cap it.
Killer.
It's a killer
costume.
suit though, right?
Killer suit.
Oh yeah, I think it's very smart, and I feel like I was kind of bummed that people weren't into it because I was like, I thought it was pretty tight. But yeah, people.
Hell yeah! I think I told you that's going to be a Halloween costume.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's so easy to do.
So
it's so
easy.
simple.
Yeah.
Different ways to do it.
It's all as long as you get that mask right.
You can get a luchador mask.
Actually, it's a great idea.
Get a white
Yeah.
luchador mask.
And Jeff asked me before the show if I had seen any at WonderCon, and I did. I saw a couple of Mr. Nights and I saw a couple of Moon Knights. I didn't see Tiny Moon Knight, but I would have loved to. A tiny boy like at the premiere. Oh, so cute. But yeah, Mr. Knight is pretty spot on as far as the look goes in the show. But yeah, he was introduced in 2011.
Wow.
He didn't actually, it was funny because he was kind of like a cameo, but like a full cameo, if you will. Mm-hmm. And he was in a bit of the book, but he wasn't actually a main character and a main Moon Knight feature until 2014.
Almost 3 years later.
3 years later. It took 3 years for them to actually do this issue that I just showed you, which was written by Mr. Warren Ellis and drawn by Declan Shalvey, who is actually, I know him. He's great.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Nice.
We hung out with a collective group of creators at a GalaxyCon. I don't know. I think maybe before lockdown. So like 2018 or 2019. He's a hilarious fellow. Oh my gosh, he's so great. And so talented, as you can see in this book. But yeah, so
Oscar Isaac did say that he loved putting on the Mr. Knight.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I can't wait to see
I
that.
know. And in action too.
And in action.
Yeah, because we haven't no trailer spots have shown that.
Right. And so the funny thing about Mr. Knight is that while we get this very abrasive, very tactile, very physical mercenary that is Moon Knight, Mr. Knight, on the other hand, is where I can see where the Batman comparisons come in. He is a full-fledged detective.
Like Bruce Wayne type of deal?
Because, like, you know how, like, Battinson was in the Batman?
Okay, yeah.
Mr. Knight.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's among the people, he's among the detectives and
still in his garb though.
Still in his garb, and that's how he's keeping the division between being a normal civilian helping or even a professional detective helping.
Sure.
And himself and his Moon Knight self.
Sure. Okay.
So it's almost like, I don't know how to phrase it. It's almost like a less threatening version of himself.
Sure, yeah, because he's just a guy in a suit.
It's just a guy in a suit with a mask on. What's there to be scared of?
Yeah.
And yeah, like here, as you can see, here's Mark chilling in his limo, maskless, and that's before he heads out to do some investigative work. So, like, again, when it first came out, people weren't so hot on it because they wanted that bludgeoning. People
want like the
violent.
Sure, they want something that's intimidating and something very, and boom, a guy in a white, all white suit.
Yeah,
but I like it,
Mr. Knight.
Yeah, I like it. It's sleek. It's new. It's
different. It's very different, and it's an interesting take because it does show him in a more explorative state where he's not so much using his fists, but he's really using his brain. And his know-how. But yeah, we haven't even been formally introduced to Mr. Knight in the series yet, but they're using him on promotions, so he's got to be.
They didn't hold back with the different personalities of Moon Knight, so it's got to be crazy.
It's going to be
And we've
nuts.
only heard, like, through Twitter and everything that it gets crazy.
Right, exactly. And I can't wait.
Yeah.
And so while we've only covered those particular identities, like I mentioned before, there's another one that's very prominent that we haven't yet been introduced to, at least when the Disney Plus series episode 1 comes to mind. But that's, again, it's Jake Lockley. Yep. And what more can be said about Jake other than that he is a very good cab driver.
Nice.
So he's a cab driver. He's a cabbie. He's the third guy that you see with the little hat on, and he's a little more gruff.
Got it.
Yeah. So we'll see if we see Jake or not, and in what capacity. And so, all that said, you think you're ready for an actual pop quiz?
We'll see.
I think you can do it.
Been a while.
I think you got this.
Been a while.
Okay, so this is a comic book one, but you don't have to know comic books per se. This is a good guesstimation. So, speaking of personalities and alters, which is what they regard them as, there have been quite a number of alters behind Moon Knight. once having even adopted 3 known superheroes of the Marvel Universe. So
Okay.
instead of Mark, Steven, and Jake, Moon Knight had 3 superheroes in addition to Mark.
Whoa. Okay.
So, which 3 were not in the trio of alters? Ready?
Okay.
Daredevil, Spider-Man,
Okay.
Wolverine, the Winter Soldier, Cyclops, and Captain America.
Okay. So
Which 3 were not part of the alters?
okay. And can you re-explain alters one more time?
Multiple personalities. So imagine
Okay.
Mark. There's Mark, and he's Moon Knight. And instead of Stephen Grant and instead of Jake Lockley, he has 3 superheroes that are the personas.
Oh, so it's like Daredevil's persona of Moon Knight.
Yes.
Oh. So he took on 3.
3 superhero
Wow.
alters, personalities, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Daredevil, Cyclops,
Yeah.
Captain America, Wolverine?
Daredevil, Cyclops, Captain America, Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Winter Soldier. Which 3 were not?
We're not.
Were not part of that trio.
God, I want to say like the ones who like did the least amount of violence.
The pure bunch.
Yeah. I'm going to say Cap is one of them. One
Is
of
not.
us is not. So you're asking
Okay.
me which ones are not.
Correct.
I want to go Cyclops, Cap,
Okay.
and so there's Daredevil,
Spider-Man,
Spider-Man.
Wolverine, Winter Soldier.
I'll go Spidey.
So Cyclops, Captain America,
Spidey.
and Spidey
Yeah.
are your final answer.
Yeah.
Okay. So as featured in the 2010 Moon Knight run,
Oh, wow.
first issue no less, written by the legendary Brian Michael Bendis and drawn by one of my personal favorite people, Alex Malev. The trio of alters was, in fact, Captain America,
Of course.
Wolverine, and Spider-Man.
Oh, wow.
So I'm showing Jeff the second to last page of the number 1
so
issues.
Crazy. What the heck?
Yeah. So instead of those, his usual alternate
Steven,
personalities,
Mark, Jake, yeah.
yeah, he's got Wolverine, Captain America, and Spider-Man floating around in his brain. So much so to the point that he even used the shield and web shooters and claws.
That's funny.
Yeah. It's wild if you want to
Wow.
give it a read. But go back a few pages because Alex Maleev, he is incredible. I need you to read that. Read
This
that
one?
page.
This
Read
one?
it. Read it.
All right, let me paint a picture for you
Yes,
guys.
do it.
So, is that the thing? No, who is this?
Yeah, it is. It's Ben Grimm. Yeah. So, okay, here we go. Let me set it up.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
let's say the Avengers have gathered together. And it's, let me see who's talking. I think it's Bobby. No, it's Captain Marvel. So Captain Marvel approaches a room of...
That's Captain Marvel?
No. She's the one standing.
Oh.
It approaches a room full of Avengers. And so Ben Grimm is there. Luke Cage is there. Bobby Morse, a.k.a. Mockingbird, is there. Wolverine and Spider-Man are all in the room. And to which Carol says...
Has anyone here dated Moon Knight?
And their answers are...
No, and Spidey's a little bit.
Spidey's like, a little bit. Everybody says no,
No.
except for Spidey.
A little bit.
A little bit.
That is
So
funny.
they have these funny little quips here and then in these ultra serious books.
Hilarious.
Oh, sorry, that wasn't the issue. So the issue itself, let me show you here. It was just so great, and Alex Maleev, again, he's so cool. He's funny. I see him at New York Comic Con. That's the only show I ever see him at.
Yeah.
And every time he sees me, he follows me on Twitter. And how he remembers me, he's like, "Oh, hey, Diana, you're the one that always uses the emojis on me." He calls me emojis and
Wow.
because
Wow.
I show him a lot of love, and so he's not into emojis.
Oh.
But he laughs at me about it all the time. He's like,
That's-
"You're always sending me the hearts and stuff, the hearts and like, you're funny." So here's the cover of that issue, as you can see.
Holy cow, that's
Yeah,
cool as hell.
it's another one of those series which was like beloved by some and then hated by
Sure,
others.
I get it.
Excuse me. So
it is Moon Knight
Yeah.
cover. He's like almost in like a superhero like pose, lunging forward, right foot forward. He's lunging on, like he's standing on a base. That base is Captain America's shield.
Yep.
His right hand is Wolverine claws.
Yep.
And his left hand is Spider-Man.
Spider-Man's glove.
Thwip.
And he's thwipping.
Thwip.
Yeah. But Alex is, by the way, Alex is one of the most notable artists for Daredevil in history.
Okay.
So he has a very distinctive art style. There was a couple of splash pages here that, oh my God, I just have to show you. Look at this. It's so good.
That's insane.
He's so good. I have a couple of commissions by this guy, and he always gives me a great deal.
So cool.
He's just incredible. I love him to pieces. That's why I sent him emojis all the time. Yeah, he's gritty, and he captures a lot of texture and just it's just so visceral looking.
Oh,
like,
yeah, gruesome,
look at this.
for
It's
sure.
so good. So yeah, you see Alex Maliv's name on anything, you buy it. Look at this. He's underwater.
Oh yeah, that
it's
is
beautiful.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So yeah, so that's kind of funny, right? Never would
That
you
is.
have imagined
Not
that
those three.
that trio of personas would have taken
Literally,
over Moon Knight.
I was so wrong.
Yeah, and he has a full-fledged 2-page conversation with them, and then
it's
to which at the very end you realize he's all alone.
to be continued. Wow.
Yeah.
Is that an Ultron mask?
Yes, it is.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So, I wanted to dive a little bit into, because I feel like we are going to get quite a bit of that Egyptian lore goodness. I wanted to mention and talk about the few, but very important Egyptian gods that are mentioned by Mark or Stephen in the first episode. And so just to kind of sum it up for people who have not seen the episode or just can't remember, when Stephen is first comes into work and he sees the little girl putting the gum into the pyramid facade or, model in the museum, he like lures her away. And then he starts talking about the sarcophagus and how they would put a hook in and pull the body and the internal organs out and all that good stuff. And so in that, what's interesting to me is that it's almost like a diversion where they want you to pay more attention to how this character is talking and speaking to this child, and he seems so knowledgeable about the lore that you almost don't pay attention to what he's saying. And so it continues further on when he's in the basement with the lady, what's her name, Deborah? I don't remember her name already.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
And the shopkeeper, the store manager. And they're going through the stock, and he's like, "Oh, I have a correction on the poster." And so I feel like these are important in their own right because, like Khonshu, that when you start to read into the details of the historical nuances, they make more sense in the bigger picture. Kind of like when we did in the Loki episode, and those mythical, Norse gods that all had to do with Loki directly, and also with the Eternals. The Eternals were a big one because they were all based off of Greek and Roman mythology.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to dive into something very similar to that with Moon Knight and the Egyptian gods. And so Stephen mentions the Aeneid, which literally means 9. And they're collectively known as the Aeneid of Heliopolis, a major city in ancient Egypt. So there you go. There's one stepping stone toward the Khonshu emergence and all that.
Yep.
And then Mark mentions Horus. And I think this is, I don't know if was it Mark or Stephen? See, we're doing this now.
Probably. Oh, wow.
It might have been, it could have been Mark, honestly, I'm not sure. But Horus it might be a familiar name to some people. He's the god in the form of a falcon, whose right eye was the sun or the morning star, representing power and quintessence, and whose left eye was the moon or evening star, representing healing. And then there's Osiris, the god of fertility, agriculture, the afterlife, the dead, resurrection, life, and vegetation. And then Tefnut, goddess of moisture and rainfall, the twin sister and female counterpart of the air god Shu, who is also the supporter of the sky.
Nice.
And then the remaining who are unnamed as of episode 1 because she cuts him off and she tells him to stop talking.
I'm gonna stop you right there.
Exactly. So the remaining 9 are Atum, Geb, Newt, Isis, Seth, and Nephthys. So
Sheesh.
whether or not we're going to hear about the rest of them
Yeah.
and what all they play in this grand scheme of putting this character in the hotbed of like Egyptian history,
Yeah.
especially compared to, again, the comic book origin, where he was like shooting people trying to get into a tomb and then he like is left for dead.
Yeah.
It's very, very different. So
course.
it's like, but we do have to uncover, how does he get the scarab? We still haven't seen that.
too. We still haven't. We don't know why they're. I mean, we
Well-
know why the scarab is right. Why why Ethan Hawke is chasing him,
Yeah.
but we don't know what Ethan Hawke. Oh no, we know who he serves. I got it.
Yeah.
It's like I'm forgetting this episode again, but like, it's like, it's. They're not rushing into things, but they're also not taking it slow.
Right.
Like immediately, like it's like we know like what Ethan Hawke's character is fighting for,
Right.
and then at the end of the episode we see like Steven and Mark come together and like boom, Moon Knight reveal,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
here we go.
Yeah, exactly. And so speaking of Moon Knight himself, like aside seeing the brutality, we haven't seen the depth of his powers. Aside the fact that he's like strong as hell, and can take a beat down very well,
For
and give
sure.
it twice as bad. But in the books, he's actually only got 2, from what I can really say. He's got the enhanced brain function, so he's kind of almost reprogrammed when he's reborn of Khonshu, in that he was rebuilt as God's weapon. So it's got a lot of that that vibe going on, and he displays resistance to telepathic attacks, which is like, it's interesting. Is it because he has multiple personalities, or
Shoot, maybe.
right? So
but
Jean
hey.
Grey, Professor X, Psylocke, they couldn't touch him. Interesting.
Love that,
Interesting.
because it's always like, how do you counter those characters?
Right. Exactly.
And
And
he has one. He's one of them.
Exactly. He has a way around it, and then thanks to Khonshu, he has immortality.
Ooh,
So he
that's cool.
technically cannot die. However, that said, are you ready for your second pop quiz?
Oh no.
Easy one, easy one, easy one. There's no wrong or right answer, maybe. We'll see.
Let's see.
So, just take a stab in the dark. Not literally. How many times has Moon Knight died?
Oh my gosh.
3, 13, 30, or has he?
Wow. That's a curveball in the comics, obviously.
In the
right?
comics, yeah.
3, 13.
Which we could see in the show. We don't know.
Maybe, yeah. 3, 13, 30, or has he? Okay, so are we talking about Moon Knight?
Moon Knight.
We're not talking
Moon
about
Knight.
Stephen Grant. We're not.
Mark. Let's say Mark.
Okay.
How many times has Mark died
In the
in the books?
God. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? He hasn't.
Yeah.
Let's go with that.
Okay. Well, you're wrong.
You got
I wasn't
me.
even gonna draw that out.
You got me.
But in your defense,
Does
he's
he
only,
ever die though if he has multiple personalities?
Right. No, it's true because like there are so many ways of playing that statement. Like,
Yeah.
does he really die?
How
though?
technical do we want to
Yeah,
get?
how technical do we want to get? So Mark Spector himself has only died 3 times in the books, which is for a comic book character. You want to talk death? Ask Jean Grey. Pull Jean Grey up. But
Small
there's-
ball.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no known reasoning or method like to the way Khonshu like resurrects Mark, let alone like why he does.
Okay.
Like, there's no reason for it. But several different stories have depicted like that being the vessel of an Egyptian god is hard on the human body. So it's possible that his physical form might not even be able to withstand multiple resurrections. So so he could be dying his formal death each time he comes back, because it's almost like kind of, I think I mentioned this in the Thor episode, like when Jane Foster becomes Thor, the mighty Thor, she as Jane Foster is a cancer patient. She's like stage 4.
Yeah.
She's about to die.
Yes.
But as Thor, she's great. She's immortal. She's powerful. She's like 2 feet taller than she actually is. But each time she releases Mjolnir and the power of this guardian god, she grows weaker in her human form. So if that rule applies also to Mark, that means every time Khonshu has brought him back, he's weaker in his human form. And so the next time he dies, if and when, he's not going to... He might be that much closer to not being able to come back.
Sheesh, man. Sheesh.
But then, like, per your technicality note, does that then mean what if Steven is in control and he like changes his, like, he's like mind over matter, my body is fine?
Shoot, maybe that's why Steven looks beat the hell up, man.
It's true though, right? Because you look at Mark and he's kind of like flourishing.
Yeah.
Right?
Like vibrant,
very
full of
vibrant,
energy.
stands different, talks different, has the chops to ask out a woman very differently from the way that Steven could even speak to her. Yeah. So I mean,
that part of the first episode, I felt really bad.
Oh yeah.
Like I was really feeling for him, and I was like, damn, Oscar Isaac's a good freaking actor, man.
Capital A actor. Like seriously.
He's like, where are you? Are you still coming for steak?
Yeah.
I did on Friday. It's 2 days ago.
Yeah,
and he was
what comes after Thursday?
What's today? No, it's not. It's not Sunday.
He's so good.
I was like,
even if his accent is terrible per local people, he's so good at conveying.
Oh God!
I felt so bad.
I was like, wow.
I know, but that's great because it's making you sympathize with this character and empathize with him.
Specifically, Steven too.
Exactly, and especially when you're then presented with Mark and Khonshu, and you get to see this other side of him. So I can't even imagine how they're going to depict Mr. Knight.
Yeah,
like how is Mr. Knight play into this?
That's why I said I'll go back to that's why I love like the ending of that episode so much, because when you see Mark on screen in the mirror,
right,
you're just like. He's like, let me take control. I can save us. And I'm like, oh my God, this is too different. This is the same actor.
It's so wild. And he doesn't even look different, but he presents himself so differently that you're just like, oh.
His stature, like the way. Oh
yeah, so great.
Crazy.
And I mean, they honestly couldn't, to me, they couldn't have picked a better candidate because, man.
Killing it.
He's killing it. I remember watching it and just thinking throughout the entire thing, I was like, damn, Oscar Isaac can act. He can really act. And again, that's why I'm so glad that he was able to pull away from the apocalypse thing and come back as Poe Dameron, despite what they did to Star Wars. Yeah. And then come back in all these other shows and movies, and then full circle back to Marvel, and then be Moon Knight of all characters. And then get to play essentially four versions of himself.
That's daddy right there. You know,
capital D daddy.
Yeah, what a guy. What a freaking guy.
Go ahead, say it. Tell me what you tell the audience what you told me earlier, Jeff. Tell them what you said.
Oscar Isaac there's an interview today, and
out of control.
He discovered something about like the internet. And I want to see if I can find it. Oh, yes. This is Oscar Isaac.
Did you have it bookmarked?
It's in my likes. Even better.
That's better.
Oscar Isaac on fans calling him daddy. He was like, I didn't know fans call me that. That's okay. They can call me daddy. I don't mind. And I'm like, yes. Love that.
How did he not? That's BS. Like come on. He didn't. Oh, I didn't know people called me daddy. Are you kidding me? Pedro Pascal calls you daddy. How did you not know that your fans called you daddy? Guys, if you haven't looked it up, Pedro Pascal and Oscar Isaac, best friends forever. Look it up. They're the greatest.
They're the best.
They're so good. So, to go back to the powers topic really quick, his additional abilities include, and I'm going to try and say this all at once, expert pilot and detective, interrogation expert, master marksman, weapons master, master martial artist, and multilingual skills. In the books, he speaks English, Simkarian, and Arabic.
Simkarian.
Yeah.
Nice.
Interesting one, right? Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how far we get with the versions of him on screen. Yeah. Like again, they have these very stark contrasts between his origin and also his
very nice.
plug and his religious roots. So I know that was kind of a, not to dive into that territory too much, but like it was a little bit polarizing of a topic that I know some people were concerned that they perhaps erased the Jewish heritage of him. But I mean, who's to say? And again, this is a different approach of the character entirely. I don't necessarily see it that way, but we'll see what they do with the series. I mean, we still have like essentially 5 hours of storytelling left. So we don't know until we see it or don't see it.
So excited.
Yeah.
This is hyping me up to stay up late for tonight's
I
episode.
know. See, you're convincing me as we're talking here. But yeah, like I mentioned to Jeff, like I meant to rewatch the episode again, but then I started reading more books. So I got caught within between a rock and a hard place, but it's all good. It's all Moon Knight. And so, as promised, let's talk some aesthetic. So in the comics, like you see, he's white, all white, gray, white, a little black sometimes, but white. And he wants his adversaries to see him coming, so he's not even trying to hide.
I know Edna Mode said no capes, but holy crap, this cape is sick.
It's a good cape.
A crescent moon cape.
Yeah,
God.
Exactly. And so in the books, Jack Russell, our friend Jack Russell, werewolf, describes Moon Knight's hood and mask as silver gauze, which covers his face like ectoplasm.
Wow, what a description.
So that's an interesting contrast, especially when you look at the Disney Plus version, which at first I feel some people were caught off guard and they were like, it's jarring because it's literally like mummy wrapping.
Like bandages.
Like they really
almost.
went there. They really leaned into the Egyptian side, which I think is a genius idea.
Yeah, like
because how else would you depict a pure white superhero without him looking like a
cartoonish,
ghost, or
I guess.
Cartoonish,
maybe, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they could do it. Like you think about
but there has
shows
to be
like
an
The
origin,
Boys
especially
and stuff.
when you're live action storytelling. There has to be some sort of,
Yeah, there's got to be some depth to it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they could have taken some liberties to make him look pristine if they wanted to. But I think because of the nature of the show and the way that it is a bit darker, their resolve with that and their approach with that is making him very textual. What is the word that I'm trying to find? Texturized. There we go. Yes. We found it. And I think it works quite well. And I said this to Jeff when we were looking at that Moon Knight at California Adventure. Like, I almost like the one at California Adventure more because you can tell the eyes are practical. Yeah. Versus the show where of course it's a show. Maybe they are practical on camera, but
it's always like CGI enhanced.
It looks CGI, but I'm sure that I'm only gonna love it more the more episodes that we go through.
100%.
Because you're gonna get once you get used to it, and you're just like, okay, it's gonna be like the suits, it's gonna be like the cape, it's gonna be like the full-fledged thing.
Yep.
And even today, when I was doing more homework, I noticed, I hated that I saw it, but I saw that clip where he's pulling the crescent moon off of his chest.
Oh yeah.
Which of course is like very Batman-esque, but but I hadn't seen it until that moment. And so I was like, Shh. But also it makes perfect sense because the way that they made it look spot on, and that it has the gold to it, and it brings
it has
it
like
out.
a shine, has a sheen to it. Yeah.
And then if you look at the posters too, like you see on the Moon Knight one, when I was creating the graphics for this episode, you see the hieroglyphics on his.
Crazy.
Oh, it's just so
the character
great.
Posters look crazy.
Yeah, and it's so funny because they're essentially very simple. It's simple. Yeah. It's white. It's a little gold. It's a little gray, but they managed to really make him stand out. Like, that is an excellent costume.
I've seen some cosplayers already on Twitter at certain cons or events or whatever, and it's you guys are quick, man.
So good. Yeah, I'm sure those people probably started the minute that they showed the first pictures. Yeah.
Got to, or even at the Moon Knight premiere, there was Oscar Isaac took a picture with a little kid. He was just
so cute.
Holy crap!
He was literally a 2 foot tall Moon Knight. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, crazy.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And so Mr. Knight, like I said before, it's almost exactly as you see him in the show. Granted, in the poster that we saw, And the still, I think that they showed, the still, I think he's wearing the jacket, and in the poster, he's got the jacket off, and he's rolling up his sleeve.
It's rolled up sleeves.
Yeah, and you see that he's pale
and
and
like
all
a
that stuff.
luchador mask.
The mask, yeah. So I'm excited to see what they do with that. But so props to Megan Kasperlik, who is the costume designer for the show. And apparently she actually also, this is not her first time doing superhero costumes. She did the TV series The Watchmen for DC. And The Dark Knight Rises and The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Wow.
So
legendary.
Woo, go girl.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about range.
Yeah, tell me about it. Heck yeah, if she's who I got to thank for those wide-eyed Spidey lenses. Oh man.
I think those are my favorite.
Oh, I love that suit.
I like wide-eyed.
It's my favorite
Spidey.
suit. Yeah. Olivier Coipel from the comic books, buddy.
As much as I love Tobey's Spider-Man, I still
yeah.
do. But yeah, I think Arachnerd on Twitter too has said that too. And the more he's like tweeted it out, his favorite live action version of Spidey.
Yeah.
I'm like, right? I
Right?
like that too.
Right?
I think I do.
Yeah. Say what you will about his Peter Parker, but his Spider-Man and that suit, that particular suit.
That ASM suit is
I love
crazy.
that suit.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And calling back to the color theory. So we started this color theory thing that we started mentioning as of the last episode, which is Green Goblin, and how we discussed how characters with the green and purple, for instance, are very science oriented and intelligence and stuff. And so I decided to start adding that.
Okay.
So
nice.
for Moon Knight, I was like, oh, why not? And so for Moon Knight, it's more or less because I want to like fact check it. Like, does it match up?
Yeah.
Is it just an aesthetic thing where they're like, oh, let's put him in white?
It looks cool.
Yeah, like you said, right?
You know what I'm saying? Like,
it looks good. It's fine.
It's like a writer writing it like
Right.
let's say To Kill a Mockingbird and everything. And they're
Yeah.
and we discuss it in English class. They're like, oh, what do we think the author meant when he said this?
Yeah.
It's because the character was feeling sad, but also, frustrated, and then we'll never know. But it's like you ask the author, like, what was he thinking? What was the character feeling? Like, I don't know, man. He was just bored or something.
It was just bored. He just added
sad.
it in.
Yeah. Like nothing crazy.
So I don't know. I'll let you decide. So according to the color theory of comics, white is noted as spacious, eternal, pure, and sterile. I don't know if you heard Bucky, but Bucky was like,
Sterile, huh?
Yeah.
That explains why he got stood up on the date.
Yeah. I don't think it's that kind of sterile,
just
Geoffrey.
So? Now you see how my mind works.
Oh my goodness.
I'm keeping that
So so yeah, I think as at least where eternal comes in, because he is immortal, and Khonshu himself itself is quite eternal and pure and spacious. Spacious is an interesting term, as is sterile, but I mean, I guess that makes for, like there's a full run where as a child, Mark's dad entered him into a psychiatric hospital, and so talk about spacious or lack of spaciousness and sterile. That would definitely be one of those things. And actually, there's a cover I think that Greg Smallwood did, and it's Mr. Knight, and he's wearing one of those coats.
Nice.
So I think it does define the character quite a bit, and that may be interesting. Or they just thought, hey, let's have a white colored superhero. That might work. But speaking of family, let's get into family because there's some interesting stuff here.
Okay.
And so, at least where the show is concerned, we don't know any family that he has just yet, other than the fact that he's speaking to what appears to be his mom on the phone.
Uh-huh.
But I will say this, upon watching it, I was like, is there anybody else on the other side of that line? Or is he just talking? Is he just talking? Not that his mom is another personality, but is there another crack in the surface that he's speaking into what might feel comfortable or comforting to him, even though there's nobody there.
Yeah, maybe we'll
Right?
get a reveal of that. Like, who is he
I was
really speaking to? Or
because I noticed both times that he called her, he missed her call, so he was calling her back.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know if you caught that.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah,
I knew he was
he's
calling,
not
because I
talking
did
to
notice
her.
that he would call his mom.
Yeah.
He would talk to his mom only just to like keep her updated with things like, hey,
Right.
this is what's going on in
she's
my
not on
life.
the
Like
line.
she might be the one type of thing. Like,
Yeah.
but I didn't notice that he was calling her back.
Calling her back. It's like, oh, Mom, sorry I missed your call. I just wanted to tell you. And then he like
Goes
all
on
the
to his
things.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, they're setting stuff up. So as far as the comics are concerned, however, once again, we have a missing mother. She's somewhere.
Okay.
She has no name.
Okay.
But like I mentioned before, there's Elias Spector, who is his father. And as previously mentioned, he was a rabbi who, as a child, escaped prosecution after Hitler invaded Czechoslovakia in 1939. And so, as you can imagine, he wanted his sons to kind of take after him and follow in the footsteps of the rabbi and practice traditions.
Got it.
And both sons, not only Mark but his brother Randall, who we're going to talk about right after this, just did not fall into that trait. They just didn't do it, and unfortunately, he died in Mark's younger adult years, I believe. And this is again after he was admitted into the psychiatric hospital. And then, did I note it? I know I was writing it down here somewhere, but it isn't until his dad actually passes away that the personalities that he sees Khonshu for the very first time. So after the traumatic experience with the rabbi Perlman,
Yeah.
whose real name escapes me right now. But after he had formulated the fracture of his multiple personality disorder, he then it's just those personalities. So he's just hearing Stephen Grant and Jake, and then it isn't until his dad passes away which again is kind of a triggering
Thing for him.
Yeah. So I think that helps spur, and then he finally, instead of just hearing Khonshu or being led by Khonshu, he finally sees him. And then that's when the real full-on Moon Knight persona comes together, which is wild. Yeah, it's super wild. And so, as I said, he's got a brother. He's got a sibling. And so Randall was the younger brother. And the kids, because of their, again, this is kind of deep for those who are, like very spiritual in their own right. And so as children, they would get bullied for being Jewish, and they would get mocked. And their dad used to take them, he would walk with them to school, and they would get mocked just by walking, and it's just like that they were essentially surrounded by this volatile nature at a young age. And so it really did kind of have an effect on them, because it gave them anxiety. So it really, instead of growing up like happy children as they very well should have, they were instead surrounded by this weird animosity just for existing and being called names and the like, and they were discriminated against, which was really unfortunate. And that's something that's still something that's unfortunately plaguing our current world. And so Mark was the more protective of the two when they were kids. And so weirdly enough, like in a not similar situation, but like say the Braddock twins, for instance, the Elizabeth and Brian Braddock, who were Psylocke and Captain Britain.
Yeah.
When they were kids and they're twins, not that Randall and Mark were, but when they were twins, when they were little, Brian would always protect Betsy.
Got it.
And so like your sister, I'm sure your sister protected you when you were little. Like that's like a great way to look up to your role model of a sibling. Rand wasn't quite like that.
Yikes.
He kind of fostered like resentment for his brother because
the total opposite.
Yeah, because he wasn't the one that was protecting them. And so early on, it's almost like a hero and villain situation where Mark just being like innately built to protect and be the better of the two.
Yeah.
At least when it comes to good or bad, Rand was like, no, I don't like that. and so it would eventually come to a head as in adulthood that despite their partnerships and affiliations within the U.S. military and the CIA, so they both went and did that. They were both into it. They both took the same route.
Yeah.
They completely, diverted from their father. And so much to the point, it got so bad, and I feel like I want to read more about Randall. I almost hope that they bring him into the show, just maybe even if it's a season 2 ordeal, who knows?
Yeah.
But Randall was so off, like he was just completely a different route of a character than Mark, that he even killed Mark's girlfriend because she was gonna rat out Randall during an operative, like an Italian job.
Oh.
And he killed her with a hatchet.
Gruesome.
And then Mark found his dying girlfriend, and she was like, Rand did it. And he was like, oh. Yeah. So I think he quite literally took a grenade, threw it at his brother, to which he thought he killed his brother. But of course, no one stays dead in comics.
Oh. Never do. That's what I've learned.
Right. So, I don't know how long the time difference was. He was suspected dead, but in his current state, he is alive now. He is known as the Shadow Knight.
Oh.
So, I don't know. Interesting stuff. So he's got a suit.
Yeah.
And it's similar to this one. So, I don't know.
I mean, we'll see.
We'll see. And then somebody we will talk, not more about, but we'll have more backstory to is Dietrice oh God, I knew I was going to mess this up. Alrana.
Let me take a stab at it.
Okay.
Dietrice. Alrana. Yeah.
Alrana. Alrana.
If I look at the action, it looks like I'm supposed to say Alron or
Alruna.
Alrune.
Alrana.
Alrana. Sure.
So Dietrice Alrana, that's Mark's daughter. So Mark has a daughter with a woman named Marlene Alrana.
Okay.
Who we'll talk a little bit about later. But yeah, so he's got a little one running around in the comic verse. More stuff that I'm just like, I don't know if they're going to do all this, but
we'll see. Yeah, we don't know. Like sometimes like things will be an Easter egg. Sometimes will be fully part of like his story, but you never know.
Which, speaking of Easter eggs, that's who we're going to talk about in the Associates. So in the middle of that episode, you know how Mark, after he has realized, oh my gosh, there is something going on in Steven is realizing there's something going on in his brain, that he's got something is going on, some skill set.
Talking to him,
yeah. And he's talking to that gentleman that is the living statue, coated in gold.
Yes.
And so apparently that is I think it's just an Easter egg. I don't know that he's going to be a full fleshed out character, but in the books he has a friend named Bertrand, or Bertrand. I don't know how you want to say it, but that's a direct nod to the comic book, who in the comic book, his name is Bertrand Creepy Crawley.
Nice. Nice.
Creepy Crawley, who is a homeless man who is essentially an informant for Mark when he's Moon Knight. So it's like eyes on the ground. So it's like, you know how they all have,
like, it's a guy on the street. He's having a conversation, even though he's not going to talk back. That's a real person too.
What do you mean?
I think there's people like on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, people were saying like that's not a statue, and it was the guy was just stayed still.
That's him.
I was like, I was waiting for him to like
blink or
subtly
something. He did
move
nothing.
or something, and I'm like, damn, this guy's good.
He was good. And he looks very much like the comic book character, like to the T.
Really?
He's got long hair, and he's an older gentleman, and I don't know if he has glasses. I can't
think
remember.
it was like a monocle or maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. He had a monocle or something. But Creepy Crawly in the books, he looks very much like that. And yeah, he apparently he's known for toting around a reusable tea bag. Because like he's gotta conserve what he's got, so he
reusable
he uses
tea
a
bag.
reusable tea bag.
Oh man,
I don't know. It was a notable
That's
thing about the
hilarious.
character.
I
Yeah.
hope my friends hear this.
And so the funny thing is that like I'm noticing with these characters and their counterparts on film, especially with smaller ones like Creepy Crawly, is that Bertrand is one of the like many characters that historically has less than 100 appearances or mentions across the books.
Oof! Wow.
But he has like 15 known appearances to date, and then like just the fact that he's only in about 50 books like total in his lifetime. He's still important enough, or at least relevant enough to put as an Easter egg in the show.
That means creators know these.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like they didn't just Google who should we put in the show. Like they really did look into the history
There's a
of
mood
Moon
board.
Knight.
There's a mood board.
A moon board or a mood board? I hate me too.
Damn. Damn it.
I genuinely was not sure if you said moon. Oh my god. So you're telling me you didn't say moon?
No. It definitely did not. It never crossed
I don't
my
know
mind.
if I'm shocked or disappointed. like,
you guys should have seen my face when she said that. I just
full on froze and just tight-lipped and shook his head. From the makers of Moondite on Twitter comes the moon board.
See, now I'm curious. Like, how did that writer's room look?
Oh my gosh.
Like, was it
yeah.
a moon board or was it a mood board?
You know, now that we say it, I bet you was a moon board.
I hate this.
So good. Oh, I'm crying. Oh, but yeah, you're saying mood board.
Yeah, and I think Ethan Hawke just said this in an interview. I think also
Yeah.
he was like, I love working with Marvel because it's always hard sometimes with these studios because you have to make what they want.
Yeah.
And that's not the case with Kevin Feige and
Yeah,
Marvel
no.
Studios. It's like you go into their kitchen, yes,
Mm-hmm.
but you can use all their tools, you can use all their tech and gadgets, and they'll let you create what you want. There's no of like you have to do it like this, you have to do it like this. It's like we have this space.
Yeah.
How do you want to use it? We'll with what we've got, and we'll tailor it to that while also hitting stuff that we want to. But
Right.
at the end of the day, it's you. You play the character, and it's
Right.
like, wow.
That's a lot
Like-
of like freedom,
Yeah.
which, other studios and other outfits would not
Yeah.
probably allow.
But I mean, it just goes to show like they know the people who
Yeah.
are doing this, like these shows,
Yeah.
like they've read the comics, they understand the nuances,
Yeah.
but also understanding to keep it true to who that character is that they're portraying, but also put a modern twist on it
Yeah.
to make it digestible for this modern audience today.
Right. And I almost wonder if that's why they did take the liberties that they did with the origin story, or at least what we've seen or haven't seen of it yet.
Yeah.
And switched it up and really, once again, leaned into the historical aspect of it rather than make it a polarizing thing about religion mixed in with Egyptian history. Like, you know what I mean? It's almost too convoluted to do it that way, at least in a short form.
Yeah.
Quote unquote,
and it's
short form.
And that's also a good thing too about like those like writers and creators. It's like, how do you take something that's so broad, so like dense, and how do you just like kind of break it down to something that's digestible and easy for the general audience to understand and empathize and connect with.
Right, exactly. Like,
and I think that's what in my opinion, like what Marvel Studios does pretty well. You know, say what you want about it, about superhero flicks or, you know, whatever, or even certain creators that have hopped onto some Marvel projects. At the end of the day, I think Marvel Studios cares about the characters that come out, you know, and they do their best to create something original and new and fresh while also staying true to the character.
Yeah.
So
I mean, like the saying goes, you can't please everybody.
Yeah.
You
just hope, as an artist, you just hope to create the best thing that you can create.
Right. Exactly.
And you hope people like it. So.
Exactly. And so, like as far as other Easter eggs go, we have Gus the Goldfish, who
we still don't know.
I know earned his own character poster. So speaking of, I was telling Andrew, I was like, dude, do you remember where this panel's from? And I so distinctly remember it because it's a panel of Mr. Knight, and I swear to you, he's throwing a goldfish. And I was like, is that the issue that Gus comes from? But then Andrew and I both couldn't figure it out. We're like, wait, is it real? And so I need to ask you, are you familiar with Moon Knight Corps?
Moon Knight Corps.
Moon Knight Corps. So on Twitter and on Facebook, there is this user known as Moon Knight Corps. Okay. And it's nothing but Moon Knight posting.
Okay.
And so this guy, bless his soul, he does edits of actual panels of Moon Knight, but like on Twitter, it's Moon Knight Core 1, I think. And he modifies panels to make them funnier. He changes the dialogue. He makes the Photoshops things. And so I think I got confused that perhaps that the picture I saw of Mr. Knight throwing the goldfish was not an actual panel, but a Moon Knight Core panel, because I cannot for the life of me find it. And I thought it was Greg Smallwood, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Are you seeing it?
I am on his Twitter right now.
It's pretty hilarious. Please give him a follow.
Okay.
But if you love Moon Knight or you love posting and you love Moon Knight posting, you're going to find that on that Moon Core profile.
Okay, noted.
It's hilarious. And the best thing about it is that some of them are so good and so close to what the actual panels say that you almost can't tell if it's real or not.
Dang. This guy's good.
Like,
then.
So speaking of, not to tail off too much, but there is this panel which here, Jeff, like maybe this is not a pop quiz per se, but I think maybe did I show this to you before? It is a panel of Punisher and Moon Knight. I want you to tell me, do you think this panel is genuine or Moon Knight Core?
A little more. Are you still crazy? A little bit. You still murdering people? A little bit. How's your imaginary god? He's good. How's your dead family? I've seen this.
Have you seen this?
I've seen this.
Is it real or is it Moon Knight Core?
God, see, now that you bring this up, because I was like, this is hilarious.
Right.
Oh, you know the answer.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Damn, maybe this is the one I saw off. And it was just my
yeah. You're like questioning, like, wait, is it real?
Because I want to say it's real, but now that you mentioned this,
right?
I'm gonna say real because that was what I first thought.
It's real.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank God.
So the page.
I mean, not thank God, but like.
Yeah. So the page is essentially, I think it's Natasha is in the room and she's like, hey, like Mark or whatever, or regarding Frank.
Yeah.
Moon Knight walks up and he's like, oh, hey, Frank. And then the Punisher's like, hello, Mark, you still crazy? And Mark is like, little bit, you still murdering people? And the Punisher says, little bit, how's your imaginary god? To which Moon Knight finally says, he's good. How's your dead family? It's like, woo, sick burn, bro. Because in all truth, both sides of the fence are absolutely correct about the other.
Oh my God, so good.
Which is another reason why people are dying for yes,
Moon Knight and Deadpool to interact.
No, Punisher.
Punisher.
Punisher. Yeah. And they want. I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head. I'm gonna kick myself.
John Bernthal.
Johnny Bernthal. Oh my God, how did I forget Johnny's name? John Bernthal as the Punisher. revival so that they can jump into the Moon Knight series, inevitably make Midnight Suns or the Illuminati or whatever you want to do.
See, now that you introduce like the Netflix, character, Marvel
They're
character.
canon.
Yeah, Kevin Feige's like, yes, my plan.
Yeah, exactly. God. Oy vey. So yeah, sorry. Back to the Associates. Yeah, so I mean, there are all these Easter eggs. I don't know what we're gonna see. Who knows? But there is one more that I'm curious if you noticed. So when Steven finds the Razor phone, right? Which I had, by the way, too. It was such a good phone.
Love that.
Do you recall the names that were on the list? This is not a pop quiz.
Oh, it was one name.
Yes.
It was one, and then it was whatever he called the one that was not the same.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, kind of, sort of. So it was Layla that had like either, she spam called him for what seemed how long she said, 2 months or a year, whatever it was. There was one name.
It was opposite of what I was.
That was there was one name that wasn't Layla, and it was Duchamp. Or Duchamp, depending upon what you want to say. And so he was just one, and I knew that it was very prominent because I was like, oh, wait a minute, Duchamp. So in the books, there is a character named Jean-Paul Duchamp.
Nice.
Who is...
Why does every French name have to start with Jean-Paul?
Jean-Paul. Jean-Paul is like their John. John Paul.
Well, I think of Sean Paul.
Jean-Paul.
Okay.
So Jean-Paul Duchamp is a.k.a. Frenchie. So because Moon Knight calls him Frenchie. So every time he sees him, Frenchie. And I just imagine the most abrasive voice ever. So I can't wait to hear him say it if he does say it.
Oscar Isaac say, "Hey Frenchie."
Hey Frenchie. Exactly. And he says that he just regards him like that throughout the entire series. And he was basically his best friend. And so Jean-Paul, or Duchamp, was a member of the French Foreign Legion. He eventually left to become a soldier of fortune, which is how he met Mark. And so they liaison together in North Africa, I want to say. Yeah, North Africa. At that operation that then inevitably leads to Mark being nearly killed.
Okay.
So once Duchamp realized oh wow, he came back. He literally comes back from the dead. And they then both turn on the guy who tried to kill Mark, whose name is Bushman, who we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, so he's basically his, I don't want to say sidekick, but he's his sidekick. So whether or not he pops up, I didn't look at the cast, so I don't know if he's been cast or not.
Yeah.
But I mean, whether that's just an Easter egg for the fans or if he's actually going to show up, we'll see.
It's
but
on. I mean, if he's
prominent.
on the phone,
yeah,
that means they fought together.
Yeah.
So.
Right. So he knows Mark because that's Mark's phone.
Yep.
So we'll see if that stays true. So as far as adversaries go, we don't get too much when it comes to the Disney Plus series outside of Arthur Harrow, who, of course, again, is portrayed by Ethan Hawke.
Which, do you know how he got the role? I'm sure you've seen maybe an interview. Oh, really?
No. See, I'm so deadly afraid of seeing footage that I'm not prepared to see that I can't watch.
It's not even footage.
After.
It's just like an interview.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did
It was just
something?
how did you? Because it's like Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
A lot of interviews ask Ethan Hawke and MCU.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd say those words.
Yeah.
How did that happen? And then he was saying this is during the pandemic. Like we were at a coffee shop. I was at a coffee shop, obviously wearing masks, whatever. And I went to a coffee shop in New York, and Oscar Isaac was there. But I didn't know it was Oscar Isaac. But apparently Oscar recognized me, and he was like, "Hey, I'm doing this thing. Do you want to play the villain in it?"
Yes, I did hear this.
And then he read the script, and going back to hey, if it's a cool thing, let's do it. And he liked it, and
the rest is history.
And it's funny, the director of
Yeah.
Moon Knight.
Yeah.
I think he was supposed to do a movie with Ethan Hawke before the pandemic. Like they were slated to do a movie together.
Yeah.
But the director had to turn that down because he was like, "Oh, I can't do that project anymore. I'm going to do another project."
Oh, interesting.
And Ethan Hawke's like, "Okay, it's cool. Yeah, whatever. It's
Yeah.
fine. Go, like,
So
I get it." He's like, "Oh, it's a Marvel Disney Marvel thing." He's like, "Cool. Go do it.
Yeah.
Kill it. Do that for sure."
Wow.
Like, however long later,
Yeah.
same director is like, "Oh, that's the project he was doing."
Oh.
Yeah, it's Moon Knight.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was essentially kismet. They were meant to do this.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, so Arthur Harrow does in fact exist in the comic books. Let me say that much right up front.
Cool. Nice.
In the books, in the show, he is like, he's kind of a cult leader.
Yeah, oh god, I was trying to keep up with like the different like god names and that he was serving.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, like the god, like especially during that scene where
Yeah.
he's judgment
Right.
day,
Right.
and he's like, oh, the god of sees all, knows
Right.
all, da da da. So yes, cult leader.
Yeah.
But
Right. Yeah. And then, so the interesting thing about this is, believe it or not, this character, I believe, only has one appearance in the comic books.
wow,
One. So,
one main appearance,
One appearance.
one cameo appearance,
one appearance.
Okay.
He's in one issue, and that is all. So, So now I understand the speculation. Like, is Ethan Hawke truly playing Arthur Harrow, or is it a red herring for another character that he could be under the guy? Like he's like another character guised as Arthur Harrow.
Okay.
So there are a few things tossed out. So a few of them are like, oh, he's Anubis. And then who is an Egyptian god.
Yeah.
And then some of them, oh, he's Dracula.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
And of course, oh, he's the werewolf. So I don't know which to believe. I don't know which one I would even lean into. But Anubis sounded like the most logical one, sort of.
Yeah,
but it's
sure.
a little out there, I feel. I would almost be more inclined to say Dracula, but I don't know. That turns into a whole other situation.
God.
That would then kind of tie it into Blade, and I don't know. Like,
all these tie-ins,
and that's the thing. I think we need to not do that so much, right? Like, we shouldn't be doing that because, again, we mentioned this during like all the Spider-Man stuff. Like, perhaps that's not the best thing to do because that's not always what happens. So,
or he's Mephisto.
Exactly. What if he was like, we finally got Mephisto?
Been doing this for over a year, man.
Exactly.
Oh,
God. And so Arthur Harrow, let me go back into Arthur Harrow, at least in the comic books. So he was previously a candidate for the Nobel Peace Prize. Okay, so he was like, oh, he was such a good man. He was specializing in medicine, and his priority was fielding the pain theory and trying to assess like what is the nature of the human body and trying to heal people. Okay, which is a little bit like, I guess, like the Disney Plus version.
Yeah.
However, to keep in line with the rest of the bad people in the comic books of the Moon Knight lineage, Harrow was actually experimenting on patients in Auschwitz as well, because he is an anti-Semitic.
Jesus, I got dark.
Very quickly. And so, again, he only has one appearance in the 616. So, does that mean he's either based off of an Ultimate version? I didn't look it up because, I was afraid to find spoilers.
Oh my gosh.
But if we're going by strictly main Earth, Prime Earth, this character has one comic book to his name. If that made him important enough to be a full-on, like, villain of the show, or the antagonist of the show, what the heck? And so while we don't have much else to talk about as far as the show is concerned just yet, at least when it comes to adversaries, so other notable adversaries in the comic books, at least, that I don't anticipate we'll see on screen, aside maybe Randall Spector, are Black Spectre, Werewolf, Human Fly,
Human fly.
Literally
Nice.
a human fly. And that was one of the names for Spider-Man that they like trashed. Remember?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he became an actual character eventually. The profile: Seth Falcon, Stained Glass Scarlet, Taskmaster. They're almost twins.
Yeah.
Bullseye.
Yep.
Yeah, right. They look very similar. Bullseye.
Nice.
And most notably, mercenary and terrorist Raoul Bushman, the man responsible for killing Mark in the first place.
Ah, okay.
Yes. So he's basically that. He's a bad person, and he's pretty much his number one adversary when it comes to the books.
All right.
Whether or not he's in the show, I don't know.
I'm gonna say we'll see what they have in store.
Right. So when it comes to love interests, this is going to be a shockingly short segment because there's really only two primary love interests in Mark Spector's life, one of which we already talked about, which is Lisa Maloney. She's the girl that got hatched to death by his own brother just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And then there's the more important one, who is Marlene Alrana. Say I did it again. Who is the mother of his daughter, Diatrice. And she is in Moon Knight #1, his official first solo title.
Yeah.
And so she is the daughter of I believe the excavator who was at the site of Khonshu when all that stuff was going down.
Yeah.
And so, so she's there from the very beginning. She and Mark connect almost immediately, and so she essentially follows him throughout the run, to the point where she's the mother of his daughter. So
Whoa.
she's a very important character. I don't know that we're going to see her. But again, who's to say? And then a couple of other notable love interests that might not really be love interests in the book, but are interesting thoughts are Tigra, who is that kind of orange-colored woman cat. I think you've seen a picture of her, and she's always in a bikini.
Why do you expect? I've seen a picture of her, huh,
Because
Di?
you can't miss her. She's literally a human cat. And then
Anytime you say human cat, I think of Wonder Woman 84.
yeah, not like that.
No.
A little better than that.
I know,
A little better
but
than
it's
that.
just,
Poor Kristen Wiig. And Echo.
Whoa.
Echo.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
Did you see that there's the rumor mill of Echo today? Like
No.
a rumor came out. Of
What?
Daredevil and Kingpin will reunite in Echo.
Oh, I mean, that's a given.
Yeah, well, I mean, you never know.
It's kind of, I don't want to say this comparison.
like people want it, but it's like
I don't want to make this analogy either. But I kind of feel like it's the book Boba Fett, but then the Mandalorian comes in. So I feel like it's like Echo, the series, but then it's like Daredevil and I was going to say Falcon for some reason. Daredevil.
it's like Charlie Cox and Vincent
Kingpin.
D'Onofrio. Yeah, you know, like
Yeah. But I mean, what other way to kind of reboot them and bring them together in a natural format
Sure. Yes.
than Echo?
Yeah.
No, I think it makes sense. So Echo is kind of sort of, kind of, maybe in a couple issues, but not really. But yeah, we'll see if anything happens. And again, he's kind of one of those characters where I feel like there is so much going on with him as a person, you don't really need it. At least when it comes to the show.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I don't want, if we're being completely honest,
Yeah.
I don't, after seeing the first episode,
Yeah.
I don't need to see him deal with
no.
a romantic relationship.
Right. No.
It's just not,
I don't think
he's having so many internal problems already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let this man figure himself out first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then, of course, when it comes to his affiliations, he's a street level crime fighter. And so he has a little help from his friends, like I mentioned, Frenchie, and then Creepy Crawley. I'll never get over that name. I love it. And also a diner owner named Gina Landers.
Nice.
He was also on both the Secret and West Coast Avengers at one point, and he was also part of the Heroes for Hire.
Oh.
So he was kind of a defender, if you
Interesting.
will. Yeah, funny how that works out.
Nice.
And so his known affiliations, or at least associates, when it comes to the show, there is a new character named Layla El Fowley,
Mm-hmm.
who is portrayed by May Kalamawi. We don't know anything much about her other than that she was trying to contact Mark for a very long time.
But she is advertised like she's being advertised like with the show too. It's not just Oscar and Ethan. Like she is one of the
very prominent
titular
characters. Yeah, and so she's on paper. She's apparently an archaeologist and a friend of Mark's. And the interesting thing about, again, the meaning of even the most simple aspects of a character, her last name itself literally means competitive.
Nice.
So is she in competition with Mark? What are they competing over?
Are they
interesting. The stories.
Yeah. Former partners, whatever. Yeah.
Right. And into what degree?
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's interesting. We'll see where this goes, and I'm sure we're probably gonna get it in episode 2.
Oh, we'll see.
So we'll have a lot of notes to go over when it comes to our next mini Marvel. But so that's pretty much it for all of his relationships and such. Have you seen this character in other versions? Like, have you seen him in cartoons or anything else?
No.
This is really your first, huh?
Yeah, legitimate.
Yeah.
For
so
sure.
He's been in a couple of cartoons, Avengers Assemble, where he's voiced by Gideon Emery, and then Ultimate Spider-Man, where he's voiced by Diedrich Bader. But in true form, for me at least, I wanted to call out 2 versions that are just absolutely off the walls, balls, crazy.
Nice.
There's a Moon Knight, Monk Knight from Earth 8101.
Okay.
He's literally an ape. I love the animal version. And then there is, in fact, a Moon Knight.
Get out. Get out. No.
Earth 9047. And he is literally a cow in a Moon Knight cape. And it's the land of milk and chocolate chip cookies.
God, I hope he makes an appearance.
I know. Multiverse of madness.
Yes.
This is what I want. And so for your final pop quiz, friend, are you ready?
Nope.
This one's
Never am.
This is a fun one. So, as you know, our favorite heroes all have these fun monikers and nicknames that people call them. They call themselves, what have you. Which of the following has not been a moniker of Moon Knight?
Okay.
Is it Marky Mark?
Jesus.
Is it the Mummy?
Okay.
Casper? Or Stupid Moon Man?
Which one has he not been called in the
Yes.
comics?
So he's been called all these names except for one.
Oh my God.
Marky Mark?
Why do they have to be such like pop culture like?
It's very telling of the ages.
I know, right?
Marky Mark, the Mummy, Casper, or Stupid Moon Man?
God.
Pain.
I'm trying to revert back to the issues like where he's appeared in. So
Yeah.
he became Mr. Knight in 2011.
Yeah.
His first appearance was in 1973.
Yeah.
And then he's had issues in between, like that in between then.
Yeah, he
73
has,
and 2011. Yeah.
At least 8 volumes, probably maybe 10 volumes.
That's
of
why
solo
I'm thinking
titles.
like, oh, okay, maybe Marky Mark is relevant, you know? Casper?
Marky Mark, Mummy, Casper, Stupid Moon Man.
Stupid Moon Man stands out so much.
Why?
Because it's like not really like when I think of the Mummy, I think of the movie The Mummy with Brendan Fraser, Marky Mark, Mark Wahlberg,
Mark Wahlberg,
Casper, the
Quantum
friendly
Bug.
ghost.
Yeah.
So I feel like those are pop culture references that could be referenced in the comic books.
Yeah.
For the times.
Okay.
Stupid Moon Man?
Yeah. Is that your final answer?
No, it's not Stupid Moon Man. Because I do feel like there is an interaction where someone's just like, who are you, Moon Knight? Stupid Moon Man? Like, ugh.
Just like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. For some reason, what was it? It was Marky Mark, Mummy, Casper. For some reason, I'm leaning towards Marky Mark and or Casper.
Okay. I'm just like, after our Green Goblin episode and how many people were telling me that they were yelling at the podcast because
Yeah,
they're like,
how do you think I feel here, guys? I have no help. I got no help. It's just me.
It's just you.
It's just me.
What's your final answer?
I'm going to say Casper.
Well, Jeff, that was a great try.
Oh my God.
But you are incorrect.
What is it?
Contrary to popular belief, Moon Knight has been called Marky Mark, Casper, the Friendly Ghost, and Stupid Moon Man by the Hulk. But he has never been formally been dressed as the Mummy.
Jesus.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Dang. So looking at this right now, the episode drops in an hour. Oh, so annoyed.
I know.
But we're almost to the end of the episode. So, one of our favorite portions almost was. So let me just say, I did not find a definitive list. I feel like Oscar Isaac had it right by the throat, and he just took it, and it was his.
Yeah.
You know?
I think Marvel is at this point of just like,
yeah, they already have people in mind.
We know who's good for these characters, you know?
Yeah. So there is a list of people, of actors that fans and people alike thought would be a good fit for this character. Some of which include Shia LaBeouf. Yeah.
Wow.
Shia LaBeouf. I mean, and this is kind of based off of, I would say, the Jeff Lemire run, which is the Greg Smallwood run. And I could see it a little bit. I'm not so keen on the idea, but others include Rodrigo Santoro. Once again, Jensen Ackles. Like, what role has he not been offered, honestly? Keanu Reeves, which was a big one for a while, and people were like, get him to do it. And he was like, cool, I would do Moon Knight. And then he just didn't get it. And Rami Malek, who, of course, is Mr. Robot and the 007 villain. And Freddie Mercury. But yeah, so those are a few who could have been a fit, let alone were rumored for the role. Some suggested reading. So there was the 1980s solo by Doug Moench, Bill Sienkiewicz, who is one of my favorite artists as well, Frank Springer, and Bob Sharon, because like Gambit says, you can't go wrong with the classics. If you want a little more of the other trio, which was the Spider-Man, Captain America, and Wolverine run, of course, Brian Michael Bendis' 2010 run with Alex Maleev and Matt Wilson. Although some people totally dislike Mr. Knight, gonna go out there and mention Jeff Lemire's 2016 run of Moon Knight with Greg Savage Smallwood.
Jeff
and
Lemire, that sounds very familiar.
Jordi Belair, yeah. He's done a few. He did a Hawkeye run too, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And many other titles too. He's fantastic. And then of course, don't forget to follow Moon Knight Core 1 on Twitter.
I just did while we were recording this podcast.
It's eons and heaps of hilarity. So that's the end of the show.
Oh my gosh. We said
did
so
it,
much, and it's only been one. There's only one episode out.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What? Yeah.
Wow, what a ride.
I'm so excited for this.
Yeah.
For this show.
We're gonna have a lot more to talk about. Maybe we'll even get to cover Arthur Harrow, quote unquote Arthur Harrow.
Yeah.
After the series is done, or somebody else who might be a little more prominent, or whatever it leads to. So yeah, that'd be pretty cool, and I'm sure we'll have a lot to discuss in the next mini Marvel. It might have to be like a mini Moon Knight.
Yeah, maybe where we just
like,
discuss like what is happening.
Yeah.
Holy.
But yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Hey,
Thank
Jeff, do you know what's next?
Yes, I do.
What's next, Jeff?
So our next character that we will be covering is none other than Dr. Michael Morbius.
The living vampire.
Yeah.
So we're going to cover Morbius next.
Yeah.
Send in your questions, comments, concerns.
Yes.
We would love
love
to hear from you.
We would love to hear your opinions on the movie.
Yep.
Maybe what you what you loved, maybe what you didn't like, or what you maybe what you expected. You know?
Yeah.
We definitely have our opinions, and like we were pretty excited to see it. How
sure.
he plays on screen.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we're gonna deep dive into Morbius on our next episode.
Vampire.
And we are super excited to do that. Yeah.
Exactly. So stay tuned for more information regarding that episode, and send in your stuff anytime you want, even if it's like about stuff that's characters that we've already covered. We will mention them in our mini Marvels or set aside some time to talk about stuff. But please send your Morbius stuff over. A We Are Groot salute to Ed, Nats, the Arachnid, Claire, Ariel, Laura, Ashley, Joe, Liz, Melanie, Andrew, Tyler, Jenny, Katie, and Robin.
Woo!
Follow us on social at STRKCNTRST. And if you like what you hear, review, rate, and subscribe.
Yes, Soritos.
And don't forget, stream Moon Knight now on Disney Plus. Watch it. Can't wait.
Oh, yeah.
Woohoo!
All right. Once again, thank you guys, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Give me control, Steven. You can't handle this.
I think I can. Get away from her, you!
Yeah, I see you, you plug ugly coyote. You're in the wrong ends, mate. You're in my yard now. Come on, that's right. Come on. Ooh, looky here. Look like a butterfly, sting like a bee. My name's Steven with a V. Come on. What? Wagwan! I did it! You got planted! Layla! Did you see that?